Shalom, my friend. Before we begin, before we go deep into the wisdom your soul has been waiting for, I want you to take a breath, a soft breath, a gentle breath, because tonight something inside you is going to shift. Not through effort, not through force, but through release, through alignment, through remembering what your soul has always known, but your mind has forgotten. You are tired, not just physically tired. Your soul is tired. And there is a reason. For years, maybe decades, you've been carrying weight that was never meant for you. Expectations, fears, burdens. The belief that you must hold the world together with your own two hands. The belief that if you rest, everything will fall apart. The belief that if you don't worry, you're not being responsible. These beliefs drain you. They exhaust you. They silence the part of you that knows you were created for peace, for abundance, for alignment with something far stronger than your own strength. And you know this. Somewhere deep inside, beneath the layers of noise and pressure, you know this. Tonight, you are not here to fight. You are not here to push. You are not here to solve everything. Tonight, you are here to come home. Let me explain something that most people never realize. Your exhaustion has very little to do with how much you do, and everything to do with how much you resist. What drains you isn't action, but misalignment. Not movement, but fear. Not responsibility, but the illusion that you must carry it all alone. Think of a river. A river never gets tired. Why? Because it flows with nature, not against it. But imagine blocking the river with rocks, with debris, with walls. Then the pressure builds. Then the water strains. Then everything becomes heavy. This is your soul when it resists, when it fears, when it doubts. When you believe that you must control what was never yours to control. In the Torah, when Moses stood at the Red Sea, the people were terrified, exhausted, broken. They cried out, believing their future was collapsing around them. And Moses did what any of us would do. He prayed, he begged, he pleaded. But God's response was not what anyone expected. He said, "Why are you crying out to me? Move forward." Move forward. Not struggle, not panic, not force. Move. This one moment reveals the secret to why your soul is tired. Because you have been crying out when you were meant to move. You have been carrying when you were meant to release. You have been resisting when you were meant to flow. Your exhaustion is a message, a gentle whisper, a call from the deepest part of your soul saying, there is another way, a softer way, a way aligned with divine abundance rather than fear. Tonight, we choose that way. You've spent years obsessing over money, over stability, over the fear of not having enough. But abundance is not created through fear. Scarcity is. Abundance flows through alignment, not panic, through connection, not desperation, through trust, not tension. And tonight, right now, you are going to reconnect. Your tiredness isn't a weakness, it's a doorway. It's your soul saying, stop carrying what isn't yours. Stop fighting battles that don't belong to you. Stop believing you must earn rest, earn peace, earn abundance. You don't earn divine love. You align with it. As you listen tonight, you don't need to concentrate. You don't need to remember every word. You don't need to try. Your soul understands this language. Your soul recognizes this wisdom. And while your body rests, while your mind softens, your soul will begin to realign, to reconnect, to return to the flow that never stopped giving. You are tired because you forgot you are supported. You are tired because you believed you must do it alone. You are tired because you've been trying to live with human strength instead of divine connection. But tonight, you return. Tonight, you reconnect. Tonight, you remember. Shalom, my friend. Your soul is safe now. Let the exhaustion melt away. Let the fear dissolve. And allow yourself, finally, to receive. And as you soften into this moment, as your breath slows and your body settles just a little deeper into stillness, I want to remind you of something your soul already knows, even if your mind has forgotten. The Creator has never stopped giving to you, not for a single moment, not for a single breath, not for a single day of your entire life. There is a stream, a current of divine abundance flowing toward you constantly, not occasionally, constantly. The problem is never the flow. The problem is the connection. And that connection is not broken by God. It is blocked by us. Kabbalah teaches that the Creator is pure giving, endless giving, infinite giving, like the sun that shines without asking who deserves the light, like the ocean that never stops sending waves to the shore, like the heartbeat within you that continues even when you forget to notice it. The Creator gives because giving is the Creator's nature. But receiving, that is where we struggle. Somewhere along the way, you learned to tense up, to brace for disappointment, to expect struggle, to believe that blessings come rarely, unpredictably, or only after you've worked hard enough to earn them. That belief creates spiritual static. It interrupts the signal. It makes you think that the absence of receiving means the absence of giving. But the giving never stops. Only the receiving does. Think of a radio. The station is always broadcasting, every second, every moment. The music is there. The message is there. The sound is flowing. But if the dial is slightly off, even by a little, you hear static, distortion, silence. Not because the broadcast stopped, but because the connection did. Your relationship with divine abundance works the same way. Every time you fall into fear, the signal weakens. Every time you believe you are alone, the volume lowers. Every time you tense your soul with worry, guilt, or self-doubt, the frequency becomes harder to hear. And yet, even when you can't hear it, it's still there. The Creator never withdraws. The Creator never stops sending. The Creator never takes back the abundance meant for you. Kabbalah teaches that to stop giving would be to stop being the Creator. Just as the sun cannot decide to stop shining, God cannot decide to stop giving. The flow is eternal. But your vessel, your capacity to receive, expands or contracts based on your consciousness. When you operate from fear, your vessel shrinks. When you operate from guilt, it closes. When you operate from doubt, it becomes rigid and narrow. When you believe you must earn every good thing in your life, the vessel becomes so small that only drops can enter. But when you let go, when you soften, when you trust, when you rest in the knowing that you are supported, guided, cared for, the vessel widens, and everything you once prayed for begins to find its way to you. Not because the Creator suddenly decided you were worthy, but because you finally became available. Do you understand the difference? Your worthiness was never in question, only your availability. And tonight, as your body settles into deeper stillness, you are becoming available again. As your breath steadies, you are tuning the dial. As your mind quiets, the static dissolves. As your heart releases its tightness, you begin to receive what was always flowing toward you. There is a reason Kabbalah calls this world the world of receiving. Not the world of earning, not the world of proving, not the world of striving, the world of receiving. Because your purpose is not to fight for abundance, but to create the vessel that can hold it. Take a moment now to imagine something simple. A cup beneath a waterfall. The water doesn't stop. It never stops. The only question is whether the cup is upright, open and ready. That is your soul. That is your consciousness. That is your ability to receive. For years, you turned the cup sideways with fear, upside down with doubt. You let debris fill it, old beliefs, old stories, old wounds. And you wondered why so little reached you. But right now, without effort, without struggle, without doing anything except being here in this moment, the cup is turning upright again. It's clearing. It's opening. The flow is returning to your awareness. This is the truth. You were never disconnected from the Creator. You were only disconnected from your awareness of the connection. And tonight is about remembering, reopening, receiving again with a quiet, peaceful heart. The Creator is giving right now. The abundance is flowing right now, and all you must do is allow. And as you continue to sink more deeply into this soft feeling of receiving, there's something important your soul has been waiting to hear. Something simple, yet freeing enough to loosen knots you've been carrying for years. You don't need to fix everything tonight. You don't need to solve the problems that have weighed on your heart. You don't need to repair your entire life before the morning sun rises. You have carried urgency like armor, believing that being tense makes you responsible, that worrying makes you prepared, that pressure somehow proves your commitment. But pressure is not commitment. Pressure is fear wearing the clothes of responsibility. And fear, no matter how well disguised, blocks miracles. It blocks clarity. It blocks the quiet wisdom that whispers the next step. You are not here in this moment to force solutions. You are here to release, to soften, to remember that breakthroughs never come from panic. They come from alignment. There is a truth that people rarely understand. Miracles do not respond to pressure. They respond to openness. They respond to surrender. They respond to a calm heart that trusts the path even when the next step is invisible. Think of the times in your life when something finally worked out. Rarely was it during a moment of desperation. Rarely was it during the nights when you stayed awake replaying every worst-case scenario. Instead, the solution appeared when you let go, even a little. When you finally stopped overthinking. When you said, "I can't push any more." When you paused long enough for the divine to step in. The Creator does not compete with your tension. When you grab tightly, when you insist on controlling every detail, when you rush, you leave no room for the miracle to breathe. But the moment you loosen your grip, even slightly, the opening forms. Your entire life, you've been told that rest is dangerous, that slowing down means falling behind, that if you stop striving, everything will collapse. But this is not spiritual truth. This is the voice of fear, pretending to protect you while quietly draining your life force. You can let go now. Nothing requires your panic. Nothing demands your tension. Nothing becomes more solvable when you tighten your mind and clench your soul. Solutions don't rise from fear. They rise from clarity. They rise from stillness. They rise from the quiet place within you where the divine whisper lives. Tonight is not a night for answers. Tonight is a night for release. Tonight you give yourself permission to stop holding the world on your shoulders. You have done enough for today. You have carried enough. You have given enough. Now it is time for the universe to take its turn. Feel how your breath softens when you no longer demand immediate resolution. Feel how your chest loosens when you stop believing you must fix what hasn't even fully revealed itself. Feel how the tightness around your mind begins to dissolve the moment you whisper internally, "I don't have to solve this right now." There is wisdom in waiting. There is wisdom in rest. There is wisdom in stepping back so the divine can step forward. When Moses stood at the Red Sea, he was surrounded by urgency, danger behind him, impossibility before him. The people screamed. The pressure was overwhelming. But the miracle came only after he stopped trying to figure out how to fix it. The miracle came when he surrendered, when he aligned, when he trusted the guidance more than the fear. And so it is with you. You don't need to know how your next chapter unfolds. You don't need to understand the path yet. You don't need to map out every detail or predict every twist. That pressure is not yours. It never was. What you are doing right now, this gentle release, this softening, this quiet allowing, is more powerful than hours of overthinking. This is the moment your soul finally unclenches. This is the moment the divine flow can reach you again. You are safe. You are held. You are supported by a force far greater than your worry. There is nothing to fix tonight. There is only your breath, your presence, your quiet return to alignment. Let the pressure fall away. Let the urgency melt. Let your soul breathe freely again. As the weight of urgency continues to loosen from your chest, something else becomes possible. Something subtle, gentle, and profoundly powerful. When the mind is no longer clenched around problems, it becomes capable of tuning itself to a higher frequency. And whether you realize it or not, abundance is a frequency, not a reward, not an achievement, a frequency, a tone that your soul can resonate with when the noise of fear becomes quiet enough for you to hear it. Right now, in this softness, your mind is beginning to recalibrate, not through effort, not through force, simply through the quiet that you are allowing. Fear has its own frequency, tight, frantic, chaotic, sharp. That frequency blocks insight, blocks clarity, blocks opportunity. Scarcity is not the absence of resources, it's the presence of noise. Noise in the mind, noise in the heart, noise in the nervous system. But abundance is different. Abundance vibrates at a slower, deeper, calmer rhythm. It does not shout. It does not push. It does not demand. It hums. It whispers. It flows. And you don't tune into abundance by thinking harder, but by thinking less. You don't access it by pushing, but by softening. You don't connect to it through stress, but through rest. The human mind is like an instrument, constantly vibrating, constantly resonating with the thoughts it entertains. When you repeat thoughts of lack, your inner instrument tunes itself to lack. When you entertain fear, it tunes itself to fear. When you rehearse worst-case scenarios, the strings inside you tighten and play the music of scarcity. And then you wonder why you can't hear the melody of abundance. But right now, without forcing anything, that inner instrument is loosening. Your strings are softening. The frantic vibrations are calming. And as the tension melts, your mind begins to move into harmony with the frequency that has always been surrounding you. The frequency of giving. The frequency of flow. The frequency of divine abundance. Imagine for a moment that abundance is like a gentle radio signal. It has always been broadcasting, always transmitting, always offering wisdom, opportunities, guidance, intuition, inspiration. But if your mind is tuned to the static of fear, that signal cannot be heard. Not because it isn't there, but because your internal dial is slightly off. Tonight, it moves back into place. There is something sacred about rest, something spiritual, something deeply aligned with creation itself. In the Torah, the very first time the word holy appears is not about a place or an object, it's about rest. The seventh day, the pause, the moment when creation stopped pushing and simply existed in wholeness. That alone tells you something. Rest is not the opposite of creation, rest is the completion of creation. And in your rest, abundance begins to speak again. As your breath softens, your brainwaves shift. As your muscles release, the mind becomes more porous. As your heart rate slows, your intuition rises. You begin to hear things that were always there but drowned out by tension. You begin to sense next steps that once felt impossible to find. You begin to attract ideas, clarity, and openings because you've finally lowered the volume of fear enough for the frequency of abundance to be heard. There is a name in Kabbalah associated with this frequency, a three-letter spiritual technology representing limitless flow. Not the flow you force, the flow you receive, the flow you allow. When you rest, you naturally align with this energy. The mind becomes an open vessel instead of a clenched fist. The soul becomes receptive instead of defensive. The inner world begins to hum at the same rhythm as divine giving. And here's the miracle. Your mind tunes itself while you sleep. You don't need to consciously understand how. Just as the body heals cuts, restores cells, regulates hormones, and repairs itself during sleep, the mind repairs its spiritual frequency too. It recalibrates, it harmonizes, it realigns with the truth of abundance that fear had distorted. Right now, that recalibration is happening, quietly, silently, naturally. Your thoughts are slowing, not because you're controlling them, but because they're surrendering. Your heart is expanding, not because you're trying, but because you're no longer resisting. Your inner frequency is rising, not through effort, but through rest. You are tuning gently, beautifully, effortlessly to the frequency of abundance. A frequency that has been waiting patiently, lovingly for you to hear it again. And as your inner frequency continues to rise, as the noise of fear fades into the distance, there is an ancient truth your soul has always known, one hidden in one of the most dramatic moments in human history, yet often misunderstood. It's a truth about abundance, about miracles, about how the universe responds to you, and it begins at the edge of the Red Sea. Imagine the scene, not as a loud story told to children, but as a quiet moment of human vulnerability. The night air is cold, the sky is moonlit, the sea is black and endless before them. The Egyptian army is thundering behind them. The Israelites stand pressed together, exhausted, terrified, overwhelmed by the impossible. Their world has collapsed into two choices: drown in the sea or die beneath the sword. In that moment, people did what people always do. They begged. They panicked. They cried out to God for rescue, for a sign, for a miracle. Their voices rose into the night like 1,000 trembling prayers. But then something astonishing happened, something that reveals one of the deepest spiritual principles of creation. God did not respond to their begging. Instead, the message was clear, almost gentle, yet commanding. Why do you cry out to me? Move forward. This is one of the most misunderstood lines in all of Scripture. It wasn't a dismissal. It wasn't harsh. It was the key to how miracles actually enter the world. They had been praying from fear, from desperation, from helplessness. But miracles do not unfold in the frequency of fear. Miracles unfold in the frequency of alignment. Begging is a declaration of separation. Alignment is a declaration of connection. When you beg, you imply that the power is outside of you. When you align, you remember that the divine flow is inside you. Moses understood this. And in that quiet, terrifying moment, he stepped into alignment. He didn't try to figure out how to split the sea. He didn't strategize. He didn't overthink. He didn't plead for more time. He lifted his staff and stepped toward the water. That single act, calm, aligned, rooted in trust, shifted reality. Kabbalah teaches that the sea didn't part because Moses asked. It parted because Moses aligned. The miracle was waiting for his consciousness to rise high enough to receive it. The moment he moved forward, the frequency changed. The moment he embodied trust, the impossible became possible. The moment he acted not from panic, but from inner alignment, the sea responded to him. The sea itself obeyed consciousness. And so does your life. You have spent years begging for breakthroughs, pleading for clarity, praying for relief, trying to convince the universe that you are worthy of help. But you were never unworthy. You were simply misaligned. You were standing at your own Red Sea, looking at the impossible, believing the only power you had was to ask for rescue. But the miracle is activated not by begging, but by moving forward from a place of calm, grounded trust. Moving forward doesn't mean forcing outcomes. It doesn't mean running into the waves. It means taking the next aligned step, even when the path ahead is invisible. It means shifting from "save me" to "guide me", from "I'm powerless" to "I'm connected", from "I hope something changes" to "I am ready for the next step". The universe responds to that consciousness like the sea responded to Moses, by opening. Look at your life gently now. How many times have you stood at the edge of your own Red Sea? A relationship ending, a financial setback, a moment of fear so deep you could barely breathe. And in those moments you begged, because no one ever taught you the secret Moses knew, that begging comes from the belief that you are separate, while alignment comes from the knowing that you are one with the Creator. Tonight, in this stillness, you step into alignment. Feel the difference in your body. Begging tightens the chest. Alignment softens it. Begging grips the stomach. Alignment relaxes it. Begging shrinks your energy. Alignment expands it. And as you rest, as your breath deepens, as your soul begins to trust the path again, something ancient stirs within you. The same wisdom that guided Moses. The same truth whispered at the edge of the sea. You are not here to plead for miracles. You are here to align with them. You are here to move forward, one calm breath at a time. And as that ancient truth settles deeper into your being, something inside you loosens even more. The weight of self-pressure, the need to force outcomes, the instinct to fix everything with your mind, it all begins to dissolve into a quieter rhythm. Because once you understand that miracles respond to alignment, not urgency, you also begin to understand why they arrive most naturally in silence, in softness, in stillness. Miracles flow through the quiet moments, not because the universe hides them there, but because quiet is the only place where you can actually receive them. Anxiety is loud. Fear is loud. Overthinking is loud. These inner storms drown out the gentle nudges, the subtle shifts, the small whispers that guide your steps. Miracles do not shout over your panic. They do not push their way through chaos. They wait with infinite patience for you to become still enough to hear them. Think of a calm lake. When the surface is disturbed, full of ripples, waves, wind, you cannot see anything beneath. Not the stones, not the reflections, not the depth. But when the water settles into stillness, clarity appears. The same lake becomes a mirror. Illumination rises effortlessly. Your mind works the same way. When it is shaken by fear, nothing seems possible. Everything looks distorted. Problems feel larger. Paths look closed. But when you slip into quiet, like you are doing right now, the water clears, insight rises. Solutions that once felt unreachable begin to float to the surface without force. This is why so many breakthroughs happen not during the frantic moments, but in the pauses between them, during a walk, in the shower, while driving, or in the gentle drift before sleep. When your mind releases its grip, your soul finally has room to speak. Stillness is not emptiness. Stillness is reception. Anxiety tries to control life by tightening. Stillness invites life by opening. One blocks, one allows. And miracles flow only through the channel that is open. Kabbalah teaches that the light, the divine influx of wisdom, abundance, clarity, healing, enters only where there is space for it. Fear takes up space. Noise takes up space. Tension takes up space. Stillness, however, creates the inner room where the light can land. You are creating that room now. With each breath, your inner world becomes quieter. With each gentle exhale, your spiritual channels widen. With each moment of release, the flow of divine guidance finds more space within you. You are tuning yourself not through effort, but through surrender. Not by doing more, but by doing less. Most people believe that miracles are events that break the laws of nature. But in truth, a miracle is what happens when your inner world becomes aligned enough for you to perceive what was always possible. Stillness reveals the paths that anxiety was blocking. Stillness reconnects you to the wisdom you thought you lost. Stillness allows you to hear the whisper of the next step, a whisper that cannot reach you through the noise of panic. It's like a candle flame. If you place it in the middle of a storm, it flickers, struggles, nearly extinguishes. But in a quiet room, it burns steady and bright. Your intuition is that flame. Your connection to the divine is that flame. And stillness is the quiet room where it can shine. Feel how your body responds as you sink deeper into this softness. The muscles unclench. The breath moves more freely. The mind stops chasing. The heart stops bracing. This is the state through which miracles enter. Not grand gestures, but subtle openings. Not dramatic fireworks, but gentle alignments. Not sudden explosions of change, but quiet rearrangements of your inner space that make change inevitable. The truth is simple. When you are quiet, you become receptive. When you are receptive, you become guided. When you are guided, life unfolds in ways you never could have forced through effort alone. Right now, you are more open than you have been in a long time. The world will not end because you stopped worrying. Life will not collapse because you stopped tightening your mind around problems. In fact, this quiet may be the first moment in a very long time that the universe has room to rearrange things for your benefit. Let this silence wrap around you like a soft blanket. Let the calm settle into the spaces where anxiety once lived. Let your soul remember what your mind has forgotten, that miracles grow best in quiet soil. In this stillness, without trying, without pushing, without forcing anything, you are becoming a vessel through which the impossible begins to move. And as this deep quiet settles into your spirit, you begin to feel something else. something subtle yet powerful rising from within you, almost like a gentle current moving through your chest. This is the moment when your inner world begins to reshape the outer one. Because the universe does not start with matter, it starts with consciousness. And everything you experience, wealth, opportunity, clarity, healing, begins not outside you, but inside. This is the law people overlook their entire lives. They chase results, outcomes, money, recognition, solutions, all while neglecting the state of consciousness that creates them. The world teaches you to rearrange circumstances. Kabbalah teaches you to rearrange your inner state. Because consciousness precedes matter. Consciousness molds matter. Consciousness instructs matter. Matter does not move first. You do. Right now, as your breath deepens and your body softens, your consciousness is shifting, slowly, tenderly, without effort. And that shift is far more important than any action you could take in the physical world. When your inner state changes, the world around you must eventually follow. It has no choice. It is responding to you, always, even when you're not aware of it. There is a profound spiritual principle that Rabbi David teaches again and again. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. Not what you force, not what you chase, not what you beg for, what you are. Your inner frequency becomes the silent architect of your reality. When you live in fear, opportunities shrink, close, or dissolve. When you live in lack, it doesn't matter how hard you try, your efforts feel blocked. When you live in doubt, the world doesn't reveal its possibilities to you, not because you're unworthy, but because your consciousness is sending instructions to matter that correspond to those states. This is why wealth begins in the mind long before it appears in the bank account. Wealth is a consciousness before it is a condition. Abundance is a frequency before it is a financial reality. Expansion is an inner shift before it becomes a life experience. Even now, as you rest, your consciousness is quietly rewriting the subconscious programs that shape your experience. This is not imagination. Your brainwaves are slowing. Your mind is becoming more suggestible, more open, more receptive. Your nervous system is no longer bracing. Your energy is no longer contracting. This is the perfect state, the ideal state for inner recalibration. Healing happens in stillness. Insight happens in stillness. Alignment happens in stillness. Wealth consciousness, too, awakens in stillness. You don't have to try. You don't have to visualize perfectly. You don't have to repeat affirmations with intensity. Just by resting in this softened, open state, your inner world begins to reconfigure itself. The fears weaken. The scarcity patterns loosen. The self-doubt starts melting around the edges. And something new begins to take shape. Something steady, grounded, confident, and receptive. Think of a seed planted underground. It doesn't grow because you pull at it. It grows because its environment supports expansion. Darkness, stillness, moisture, quiet. It grows without being watched, without pressure, without force. Its transformation is internal, long before the sprout breaks through the surface. You are that seed in this moment. Your consciousness is beginning to shift toward abundance. Not through effort, but through environment. The environment of rest, safety, openness, and quiet alignment. As your inner world changes, your outer world begins to listen. Not instantly, not dramatically, but inevitably. You begin to see opportunities that were always in front of you, but hidden by fear. You begin to make decisions that feel aligned rather than desperate. You begin to attract possibilities because your frequency no longer repels them. Wealth is not a race you win, it is a state you enter. A state born from clarity, not tension. From alignment, not force. From consciousness, not matter. Your value does not rise when your circumstances change. Your circumstances change when your consciousness rises. And right now, even as your eyes grow heavier and your breath grows deeper, your consciousness is rising. Quietly, softly, naturally. The inner world is expanding, and the outer world will follow in its time. You are not sleeping to escape your life, you are sleeping to reshape it. And your soul is doing the work for you, even now, while you rest in the gentle openness of this moment. And as your consciousness continues to soften and rise in this gentle darkness, another layer begins to surface. One you may not have looked at in a very long time. The relationship you have with abundance today did not begin today. It began years ago, in rooms you barely remember, in moments so small they seemed harmless, in words spoken by people who were doing their best but carried their own wounds. Money wounds are among the oldest wounds a person can hold, and they shape how you receive, how you trust, how you allow. Right now, in this state of relaxation, you are safe enough to finally look at them. Not with judgment, not with blame, but with compassion. Because the beliefs that limit you did not come from weakness. They came from childhood moments when your brain was too young to question, too young to sift through truth and fear, too young to recognize the emotional burdens of adults around you. Maybe you grew up hearing arguments about bills, watching stress twist the faces of people you loved. Maybe you saw anxiety in their voices when rent was due or groceries had to be rationed. As a child, you didn't understand numbers or bank accounts. You only felt the energy, the tightness, the fear, the unspoken tension. And children don't interpret tension as, "my family is struggling." They interpret it as, "the world is not safe." And without realizing it, those feelings became your earliest teachings about money. You absorbed scarcity like a language. You learned fear without anyone intending to teach it to you. You inherited worries that were never yours to carry. Some people grew up with parents who worked endlessly, exhausted and overwhelmed, sending the message, without ever saying a word, that money comes only through struggle, that abundance must be earned through burnout, that rest is dangerous, that ease is irresponsible. These beliefs sink into the subconscious and, decades later, still influence how you allow abundance into your life. Others grew up with silence around money. No discussions, no guidance, no clarity. The silence itself becomes a teacher. Money is something we don't talk about. Money is something to avoid. And so, later in life, opportunities slip by, not because you are incapable, but because a part of you learned to stay small, quiet, unseen. And there are those who experienced shame around money, being told, "We can't afford that. Don't ask for too much. Be grateful for what you have," even when what you had was barely enough. These words form deep, invisible walls around the soul. They train you to lower expectations, to shrink dreams, to believe that wanting more is a threat rather than a natural expression of your divine connection. But tonight, in this softness, your nervous system is relaxed enough to release what once protected you but now limits you. Scarcity trauma is not a flaw. It is an emotional memory. A younger version of you trying to make sense of a world that felt uncertain. You are safe now. You are supported now. You are spiritually held now. Feel how your breath moves more freely when you no longer hold the weight of those old beliefs. Feel the warmth in your chest as compassion rises. Compassion for the child you once were, who did the best they could with the understanding they had. Feel how your body unclenches as you whisper inwardly, "I don't need to carry this anymore." Your mind is learning a new truth. Abundance is not dangerous. Wanting more is not selfish. Prosperity is not reserved for a select few. The Creator does not ration blessings. The universe does not punish desire. The spiritual world does not admire suffering. Your childhood taught you about survival. Your adulthood can teach you about abundance. Right now, the old patterns, those inherited fears, those emotional echoes, those subconscious scripts, are loosening their grip. Not by force, but by awareness, by gentleness, by your willingness to rest while your soul rewrites the story. Feel the shift inside. Feel the unwinding of beliefs you never chose. Feel the healing of wounds you never deserved. Your relationship with money is allowed to be soft. It is allowed to be peaceful. It is allowed to be sacred. And as you rest, this inner healing continues, quietly, naturally, making space for abundance to flow into the person you are becoming, not the child you once were. The money wounds of your past are no longer in control. They are being soothed, softened, and released in the quiet safety of this moment. And as those old money wounds soften into the background, like distant echoes losing their power, your heart becomes ready for a quieter, deeper teaching. A teaching that has shaped the consciousness of abundance for thousands of years. In the Torah, there is a principle called Lifnim Mishurat Hadin, going beyond the letter of the law, beyond what is required, beyond the minimum. It is not about rules. It is about the inner posture of your soul. When the Torah speaks of going beyond the minimum, it is reminding you that the universe responds to your energy, not your calculations. The world of spirit does not measure the size of your actions, but the depth from which they come. And when you act from expansion, when you give a little more, care a little more, offer a little more kindness or patience or generosity, you widen your vessel. You deepen your capacity to receive. This may sound abstract, but feel into it for a moment. Whenever you have done something not because you had to, but because your heart wanted to, didn't you feel yourself expand? Didn't your chest feel lighter, your breath softer, your inner world a little more open? That feeling is your vessel stretching, making room for more light. Kabbalah teaches that abundance flows into the soul the same way water flows into a container. If the container is small, the inflow is limited. If the container is wide and deep, the inflow increases effortlessly. Generosity, and it does not have to be financial generosity, is what widens the vessel. Not because the universe rewards good behavior, but because a generous heart vibrates at the frequency of abundance. And frequencies attract what matches them. A person who gives only the bare minimum lives in a contracted state. They act from a consciousness of, I must protect what I have, a belief formed from fear, not truth. But a person who goes beyond what is required lives in a state of spiritual openness. They act from trust, from alignment, from the knowing that giving does not deplete them, it expands them. You may think of generosity as sacrifice, but in spiritual law, generosity is expansion. Every time you extend kindness beyond what is expected, you stretch your vessel. Every time you forgive when anger seems justified, you stretch your vessel. Every time you give a little more patience, a little more understanding, a little more compassion, your vessel grows. And a bigger vessel can receive more light, more wisdom, more abundance. There is a story taught in the Talmud about a man who once had the opportunity to do something technically correct but not kind. Legally, he had the right to act in a way that protected himself, but doing so would have left another person harmed. Instead of doing only what the law required, he chose to go lifnim mishurat hadin, beyond the minimum. The sages say that in that moment the gates of blessing opened for him, not because he earned divine favor, but because he aligned with divine consciousness. Generosity is not measured by quantity, it is measured by consciousness. A gentle smile when someone is hurting, a moment of patience when someone is struggling, a small kindness when you could have walked away, a word of encouragement when silence would have been easy. These are acts that stretch your inner vessel, soften your heart, and create spiritual space where abundance can flow. Tonight, as your breath slows and the stillness deepens, your vessel is widening simply through understanding. You don't need to force generosity. You don't need to give what you don't have. You only need to allow your heart to soften toward the world, even a little. That softness is its own form of giving. That openness is its own form of expansion. And as you rest, your consciousness is shifting into the energy of someone who lives not from fear, but from fullness. Someone who gives not because they must, but because their soul naturally radiates overflow. Someone who understands that abundance is not something you chase, it is something you become. Lifnim mishurat hadin is not an instruction, it is an awakening. An awakening to the truth that the more open your heart becomes, the more life flows back into it. You are expanding gently now, without effort, and the universe feels that expansion even in your sleep. And as this sense of gentle expansion continues to ripple through your inner world, another truth begins to settle quietly into place. One that may soothe years of hidden frustration and silent disappointment. So much of your pain around abundance has come from believing that life delayed your blessings, that the universe withheld what you prayed for, that somehow you were overlooked, pushed aside, placed on hold. But the spiritual reality is softer, kinder, and far more aligned with love. Your blessings were never delayed. They were waiting for you, waiting for your alignment, your readiness, your expansion, your vessel to widen enough to hold what was already yours. Nothing meant for you has ever been lost. Nothing intended for your growth has ever slipped away. Nothing your soul called forward has vanished into the void. All of it, every opportunity, every shift, every doorway, has been orbiting your life, waiting for the exact moment your consciousness matched its frequency. The universe does not operate on human impatience. It moves in harmony with spiritual alignment. Imagine rain. Rain does not fall because the sky decides to be generous at random. Rain falls when the atmosphere aligns, when moisture condenses, when conditions harmonize, when the temperature supports release. The rain was always there, waiting for the moment alignment made it possible. Your blessings work the same way. You weren't being punished. You weren't being tested. You weren't being ignored. You were being prepared. You were being shaped. You were being brought into resonance with the very things you were praying for. Because if blessings arrive before alignment, they become burdens. And if abundance reaches someone whose vessel is still constricted by fear, it slips through their fingers as quickly as it arrives. You have lived seasons where you felt stuck, confused, or left behind. But if you look closely, those same seasons softened you. They humbled you. They strengthened you. They stripped away the illusions that kept you small. They opened cracks in your old beliefs so new wisdom could find a way in. Those periods weren't delays, they were refinement. The universe does not rush transformation. It nurtures it, gently, precisely, patiently. You may have wondered why certain opportunities didn't come when you desperately wanted them. But if they had, you would not have been able to sustain them. Not because you lacked worth, but because you lacked alignment. You were still holding on to fear, still gripping old identities, still shrinking your vessel with doubt, self-protection, or inherited scarcity. Right now, as you rest, your entire being is drifting into deeper alignment. Not through effort, but through release, through softness, through surrender. The same way a river finds its path not by force, but by flowing where the earth opens for it. Every moment of ease you allow tonight moves you closer to the frequency of what you've been calling in. Every breath that releases tension prepares space for blessings that have been waiting patiently for you to become the person who can receive them without fear. Think of how flowers bloom. They do not open because the world demands it. They open because the conditions align. Light, temperature, moisture, timing. Everything that once looked like waiting was actually preparation. Everything that looked like stillness was silent growth. Your life works this way too. The relationships that didn't arrive, the opportunities that slipped by, the financial breakthroughs that seemed late. They weren't late. They were syncing with your evolution. They needed the version of you who trusted more, who softened more, who expanded beyond old patterns, who became willing to receive without shrinking. You are becoming that version now. And as your nervous system rests, as your heart settles into acceptance, the tightness of "why not yet" dissolves into the warmth of "I understand now." There is no punishment in divine timing, only alignment, only orchestration. only love disguised as patience. Feel the relief that comes with knowing nothing was taken from you. Feel the peace in realizing everything meant for you is still coming. Feel the softness of understanding that the universe was never late. It was precise. Your blessings have been circling you, waiting for you to unclench, to trust, to open. And in this quiet moment, as your breath moves gently and your body drifts toward rest, you are meeting them halfway. Not through striving, not through pressure, through alignment. The blessings were never delayed. You were simply being prepared to receive them fully, deeply, and without fear. And as this understanding of divine timing settles deep into your chest, something else begins to open, almost like a quiet doorway inside you that has been waiting for the exact moment your heart softened enough to approach it. This doorway leads into one of the most profound teachings in Kabbalah, a spiritual technology that has been whispered across centuries. The 72 names of God. Not names in the ordinary sense, not words you pronounce, but frequencies, codes of consciousness, gateways of spiritual energy that align you with states of prosperity, peace, clarity, healing, and renewal. Think of them as lenses, each one a different vibration of divine light. When you focus your heart on the energy behind a name, you step into its frequency. You absorb the spiritual quality it represents. You shift, gently but powerfully, into a higher state of being. You don't need to memorize them. You don't need to understand them intellectually. You don't need to chant anything or perform rituals. All you need, especially in this quiet, restful moment, is the willingness to open your inner world to their energy. The 72 names are like a spiritual spectrum. Just as sunlight contains many colors hidden within its brightness, the divine contains many frequencies hidden within its unity. Each frequency carries a healing quality, a specific resonance, a unique vibration that can surround you, fill you, realign you. Right now, in this deepening stillness, your soul is naturally becoming more receptive to these frequencies. And as you listen, imagine these energies not as words, but as soft lights moving gently through your consciousness. Imagine a warm, golden light representing abundance, not money itself, but the pure spiritual flow from which all prosperity is born. See it forming around you, glowing softly, filling the air with a sense of ease and sufficiency. This is the frequency that dissolves fear of lack and awakens the part of you that knows you are already supported. Next, imagine a soft blue light, cool and calming, representing peace. Feel it washing gently over the nervous system, smoothing the edges of worry, softening the lingering tension that your body still holds from years of striving. Let it settle around your mind like a soothing mist, clearing the pressure you didn't realize was there. Then visualize a deep emerald light, steady, grounding, renewing. This frequency is about restoration, emotional renewal, spiritual replenishment. The energy that heals old wounds not by force, but by filling the places where fear once lived with something gentler, wiser, more whole. As you allow these colors to move through you, gold for abundance, blue for peace, green for renewal, feel how each one interacts with your breath. How your inhale seems to draw the energy inward. How your exhale seems to spread it gently through your body. There is no effort here, no trying, just receiving. This is the essence of the 72 names, allowing the light to do the work. In Kabbalah, these names are seen as bridges between the physical world and the spiritual world. Not bridges you cross with your feet, but with your consciousness. They help you rise above the limiting narratives of your mind and reconnect with the truth of who you are beneath the fear, beneath the conditioning, beneath the inherited beliefs about scarcity and struggle. You don't need the full list. You don't need the technical details. What matters in this moment is the feeling of being guided, the feeling of being supported, the feeling of being surrounded by frequencies that want to elevate, not punish, expand, not restrict, replenish, not drain. As you float in this growing calm, imagine all these frequencies blending into one soft, luminous field around you. Like a cocoon made of light, like a warm blanket for your soul. This is the field the 72 names create. A spiritual atmosphere where your mind can rest, your heart can soften, and your inner world can realign itself naturally. You may feel a gentle warmth in your chest, or a looseness in your jaw, or a deeper heaviness in your eyelids. These sensations are signs of alignment, signs that the old frequency, the one shaped by pressure, fear, and the urgency to control, is dissolving, and a new one is rising. You are not asking for anything. You are not trying to manifest anything. You are simply allowing the light to recalibrate you. In this state, prosperity becomes less of a pursuit and more of a natural flow. Peace becomes less of an achievement and more of a homecoming. Renewal becomes less of a struggle and more of a gentle unfolding from within. The 72 names are not magic words. They are states of being, and you are drifting into them with each slow, quiet breath, allowing spiritual alignment to replace the old patterns that once kept you small. This is the beginning of deep renewal, soft, effortless, and entirely guided by light. And as this gentle field of light continues to wrap itself around your consciousness, another understanding rises quietly from within. A truth so simple, yet so foundational, that it shapes your entire relationship with abundance. It begins with a metaphor that the sages have used for centuries. The vessel. Your soul is a vessel. Your consciousness is a vessel. Your ability to receive is a vessel. And blessings, like water, can flow only where there is space. This is not a metaphor of judgment. It is a metaphor of nature, the spiritual equivalent of gravity or breath. A cup that is full cannot receive more. A cup that is cracked cannot hold what is poured into it. A cup that is upside down cannot catch the rainfall meant for it. And so much of your suffering around abundance has come not from lack of flow, but from lack of space. Fear takes up space. Judgment takes up space. Ego takes up space. Old stories take up space. Self-protection takes up space. Scarcity takes up space. And when the vessel becomes crowded with these inner conditions, blessings that are already flowing cannot enter. They bounce off the surface. They slip past unnoticed. They circle your life, waiting for an opening. You may not have realized how much of your inner world has been filled, overfilled, with thoughts and emotions you never chose, wounds you inherited, beliefs planted in you long before you were old enough to question them. These things accumulated slowly, quietly, becoming part of the walls of your vessel. And without noticing, you began living with the feeling that abundance was blocked. But abundance was never blocked. The vessel was simply full. And tonight, in this softened, expansive state, the vessel begins to empty. Not in a dramatic purge, but in the gentlest way possible. One quiet breath at a time. As you rest, feel how fear begins to loosen its grip. Not vanish, not disappear instantly, but soften, like ice melting around the edges. That melting creates space. Feel how judgment of yourself, of your past, of the world begins to dissolve. Not because you force forgiveness, but because your soul is remembering that judgment is heavy, and you are tired of carrying it. That release creates space. Feel how the ego, those tight layers of defense built to protect the wounded child inside, begins to exhale. It doesn't need to fight tonight. It doesn't need to prove anything. It doesn't need to control the story. That relaxation creates space. And every bit of space you create becomes a landing place for blessings. Kabbalah teaches that the light always fills the vessel, but only to the extent that the vessel allows. A narrow vessel receives a narrow flow. A guarded vessel receives a guarded flow. But a vessel that expands through softness, humility, and letting go begins to attract abundance not through effort, but through resonance. Blessings seek openness. Blessings seek space. Blessings seek a vessel that is willing to receive without fear that it will be taken away. Think of a cup beneath a waterfall. The water never stops. The flow is constant. The only question is, can the cup hold it? Can it stay upright? Can it remain open long enough for the water to gather? Your heart is that cup. Your mind is that cup. Your consciousness right now is becoming steady enough to receive. Notice how your breath rises and falls with a slower rhythm. That rhythm itself creates space. Notice how your shoulders rest more heavily on the bed. That heaviness creates space. Notice how your thoughts drift not in circles of worry, but in long, quiet waves. That quiet creates space. When you release fear, you empty the vessel. When you release judgment, you widen the vessel. When you release ego, you soften the vessel. And a softened vessel receives more. Abundance does not enter through tension. It enters through openness. It enters through presence. It enters through a heart willing to make space for what it once believed it couldn't have. You are making that space now. Every gentle breath creates more room inside you. Every moment of calm hollow out old beliefs. Every sigh, every exhale, every softening pulls another stone out of the vessel, stones that once blocked blessings from entering. Feel the spaciousness growing inside. Feel the vessel widening in stillness. Feel the readiness forming, not a readiness born of urgency, but of quiet invitation. Your soul is no longer crowded. It is opening. It is clearing. It is making space for the abundance that has been waiting, patiently, lovingly, for this very moment of release. And as your vessel expands in this calm, welcoming darkness, abundance draws closer, finding a place, finally, where it can gently pour in. And as this spaciousness continues to open inside you, gently clearing room for abundance to flow, a memory rises, one that Rabbi David has shared only in soft tones, because it carries the vulnerability of a night that shaped his entire path. It is not a story of triumph. It is a story of almost giving up. A moment where his vessel felt so empty, so cracked, so impossibly small, that he believed nothing could ever fill it again. It was many years before the wealth, before the teachings, before the students, before anyone looked at him and saw wisdom or strength. He was young, exhausted, and convinced he had failed, not just financially, but spiritually. He had tried everything he knew. He had prayed, studied, worked, pushed, hoped, yet nothing seemed to move. Life felt like a wall, cold, unresponsive, unmoving. And he had reached a night where the weight of trying felt heavier than the fear of quitting. He remembers sitting alone in a tiny apartment with a single dim lamp flickering in the corner. The air felt thick with silence. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort, it presses. He had one bill left on the table, one he couldn't pay, and as he looked at it, something inside him cracked in a way he had never experienced before. He felt empty. He felt forgotten. He felt unseen by heaven. And for a moment, just a moment, he wondered if everything he believed in was a story he had told himself to soften the blow of failure. He wondered if maybe the universe didn't reward alignment. Maybe destiny wasn't real. Maybe abundance was for other people. He remembers the way his breath shook, the way the room felt too small for his thoughts, the way he pressed his palms against his eyes to stop the sting of tears he didn't want to admit were coming. He remembers whispering, "I can't do this anymore." Not in anger, but in a kind of defeated stillness. And then something happened. Not dramatic, not supernatural, but honest and human. In the middle of that crushing silence, his mind grew tired. The thoughts that had been screaming all evening slowed into whispers. The panic softened into heaviness. The pressure he had been gripping with his whole being loosened. Not because he chose to let go, but because he simply couldn't hold it anymore. He leaned back against the wall and closed his eyes. And in that fragile, exhausted stillness, something inside him shifted. Not a miracle, not a revelation, a shift. He felt a strange warmth settle into his chest, like someone placing a gentle hand there. He felt his breath deepen on its own. He felt the tightness in his jaw relax. He felt the noise in his mind fall away until all that remained was a soft, simple truth rising from the quiet. You're not supposed to force this. You're supposed to align. He didn't know where that thought came from, whether it was the divine, his subconscious, or the last spark of hope trying to survive. But the moment he heard it, felt it, something in him unlocked. The pressure to fix everything dissolved. The belief that he had to do it all alone melted. The idea that he had failed shattered like thin glass. What replaced it was a subtle inner knowing. You're not at the end. You're being reshaped. You're not abandoned. You're being guided. You're not broken. You're being emptied so you can be filled. He sat there for a long time, not moving, just breathing, letting the warmth spread. He would later explain that it was the first night he understood the vessel metaphor, not as a teaching, but as a lived experience. His vessel had been full of fear, pressure, ego, and overthinking. It had to crack to make space. And that night, in that quiet collapse, was the moment it finally did. The next morning, nothing looked different on the outside. The bill was still there. The apartment was still small. The world hadn't changed. But he had. His consciousness had shifted into something calmer, clearer, more aligned. And over the weeks and months that followed, opportunities began to appear, one after another, quietly at first, then unmistakably. But he always said the true miracle wasn't the wealth that eventually came. It was the night he learned to stop forcing and start aligning. The night he understood that giving up isn't the same as surrendering, and surrender is where the divine flow begins. As you rest now, with your own breath settling into this deep, peaceful rhythm, know that you are closer to alignment than ever. The same softness that lifted him out of despair is rising gently within you too. Quiet, steady, and ready to guide your next step without pressure, without fear, without force. Just as it guided him on the night he almost gave up. And as the memory of that night from Rabbi David's early life softens into silence, you may notice a familiar presence stirring within you, the part of you that always speaks the loudest when you're tired, most vulnerable, or about to surrender into sleep. This is the ego's voice, not your true self, not your soul, but the small, frightened guardian that has spent years trying to protect you by tightening your world. The ego does not wake you with clarity. It wakes you with worry. It whispers warnings, rehearses worst-case scenarios, replays the past, and tries to convince you that if you relax, everything will fall apart. Its intentions are misguided, but not malicious. The ego was born from moments when you needed protection, moments of uncertainty, rejection, scarcity, fear. It learned to anticipate danger before it appeared. It learned to prepare you for disappointment before joy even had a chance. And over time, without realizing it, you began mistaking the ego's voice for your own. But the ego cannot guide you to abundance. It cannot guide you to peace. It cannot guide you to the life your soul is calling you toward. Because the ego speaks from memory. The soul speaks from possibility. The ego speaks from fear. The soul speaks from truth. And right now, right here, in this quiet drift before sleep, you have the rare opportunity to let the ego loosen its grip and allow the soul's voice to come forward. You don't need to silence the ego. You don't need to fight it. You don't need to argue with it. You simply need to let it rest. Imagine the ego as a small, exhausted guardian who has been standing at the doorway of your mind for years, scanning for threats that no longer exist. Tonight, gently invite it to step back. Tell it softly, "You can rest now. I am safe." Feel how even imagining those words begins to relax something deep in your body. The ego's voice is sharp, tight, urgent. The soul's voice is slow, warm, spacious. The ego wants to control the path. The soul simply wants to walk it. As you lie here, feel the energy of the ego receding, not disappearing, just softening, like a candle slowly dimming in a room that is becoming filled with gentler light. Notice how the inner dialogue becomes quieter. Notice how the edges of fear begin to blur. Notice how the mind stops bracing for impact. This is the soul stepping forward, not with noise, but with presence. The soul does not shout. It does not use fear. It does not demand urgency. It speaks in warmth, in intuition, in quiet knowing. It's that feeling of ease that settles into your chest for no reason. It's the gentle pull toward trust. It's the soft whisper that says, "You are guided," even before you see the proof. Tonight, as you drift deeper into this peaceful state, imagine the soul's voice as a soft light rising from within your heart. Steady, calm, patient. With each breath, that light grows, filling the spaces the ego once occupied with something kinder, something truer, something far more aligned with your future. The soul does not need to be louder than the ego. It only needs space, and you are giving it that space right now. Feel the difference in your body as you shift into soul consciousness. The breath deepens. The ribs expand more freely. The stomach releases. The shoulders sink. There is no tension in the soul's voice, no pressure, no catastrophizing, just reassurance, like being wrapped in a blanket of quiet, unconditional safety. The ego says, "What if it doesn't work?" The soul says, "You are guided." The ego says, "You failed before." The soul says, "You are evolving." The ego says, "You must control the outcome." The soul says, "You are supported." Let those opposing voices sit side by side for a moment, and then feel the soul's warmth gently outweigh the ego's tightness. Not through force, but through softness, through the same softness that has been flowing through every moment of this journey tonight. Your ego is not your enemy. It is simply tired. It has been on guard for too long, and sleep is its permission to let go. As you drift deeper into relaxation, imagine the ego curling up and resting, like a child finally safe enough to close their eyes. And in that quiet, the soul begins to lead. It guides not with fear, but with alignment, not with pressure, but with peace, not with doubt, but with the steady truth that you are held, supported, and guided toward a life far bigger than the ego ever believed was possible. As your breath softens, feel the soul's presence expanding gently from within. Your true voice, finally given space to rise, to guide, to whisper the calm truth you were always meant to hear before sleep. You are safe. You are guided. You can let go now. And as the soul's voice settles more fully into the space the ego has gently released, you may begin to notice something subtle but profound shifting inside you. A soft loosening of the places where you've been fighting reality without even realizing it. There is a kind of quiet fatigue that comes from pushing against life, from believing that everything must bend to your timing, your plans, your expectations. It is an invisible tension, a tightening in the chest, a clenching in the mind. Most people carry it for years without noticing. But here, in this softened state, you can feel it. The resistance, the grasping, the invisible struggle with what is. So much of human suffering does not come from what happens, but from the inner argument that follows. This shouldn't be happening. Not like this. Not now. Not to me. And the more we resist, the heavier everything becomes. The more we tighten, the less life can move. Rabbi David often says that resistance is like trying to swim upstream, while the river behind you is quietly trying to carry you forward. You exhaust yourself not from the distance, but from the direction. Alignment with divine will does not mean passivity. It does not mean giving up. It does not mean accepting defeat. It is the deep, calm recognition that life is not working against you. Life is working through you. That the flow is wiser than your fear. That the timing is more precise than your deadlines. That the path you're being guided toward is bigger than the one you're clinging to. As you breathe in this moment, feel how the body responds to that truth. Notice how the breath deepens when there is no internal fight. Notice how the shoulders release when you're not bracing against life. Notice how the heart opens when you remember you are not meant to push the river, only to trust its direction. When Rabbi David teaches about divine alignment, he often explains it through a deeply simple metaphor. Imagine standing in the ocean, feeling the pull of the waves. If you brace against them, they knock you down. If you soften your knees and move with them, you remain steady. The wave doesn't change, you do. Your relationship with the force becomes harmonious instead of combative. And so it is with the events of your life. For years, perhaps, you believed you had to force outcomes. You had to push harder, work longer, grip tighter. You believed that surrender meant losing control, and losing control meant danger. But what if surrender is not the collapse you once feared? What if surrender is the doorway to being carried? As you allow the soul's voice to guide you, feel the difference between pushing and aligning. Pushing feels like strain, an uphill climb. Aligning feels like being gently drawn forward by something larger, something wiser, something that sees the whole path while you see only the next step. There have likely been moments in your life where something didn't go the way you planned. A closed door, a detour, a change that felt unfair or mistimed. And yet, looking back, many of those moments placed you exactly where you needed to be. Not by accident, but by orchestration. Not by randomness, but by precision. Divine will is not fate, it is partnership, it is movement, it is conversation. It is the unfolding of your highest path in the most aligned rhythm. And tonight, in this softness, you are learning to step into that rhythm. Feel yourself releasing the need to control outcomes. Feel yourself letting go of the tightness around how things must look. Feel yourself relaxing into the deeper truth that you are being guided, not tested. As you breathe slowly, imagine each inhale drawing in divine wisdom, and each exhale releasing resistance. Old, stale, heavy resistance that you no longer have to carry. The kind you inherited, the kind you learned, the kind you never questioned because it became familiar. Let it melt. Let it dissolve. Let it leave your body gently, quietly, without effort. You are not losing anything by letting go. You are making space. Space for clarity. Space for guidance. Space for new possibilities to rise without obstruction. And as you surrender to this inner ease, you align with a truth that Rabbi David lives by, something he discovered not through study, but through experience. Life unfolds with exquisite precision when you stop fighting its timing. The soul already knows the way. The divine already prepared the path. Your only task is to soften into alignment. And here, in this quiet drift before sleep, that alignment is beginning to feel natural, like a return, like a remembering, like a long-held breath finally exhaled. And as you continue to soften into that gentle state of alignment, where the river of life no longer feels like an adversary, but a quiet force guiding you forward, another truth begins to emerge. A truth that only reveals itself when resistance fades. It is the realization that obstacles, the very things you once feared and resented, are often the concealed doorways through which your greatest transformations arrive. Not in dramatic bursts, not in violent upheavals, but in quiet, precise moments that redirect your path with the same tenderness that the ocean uses to reshape a shoreline. Rabbi David often says that obstacles are not interruptions to your journey, they are the journey. They are the sculptors of consciousness, the sandpaper that smooths what is rough, the light that reveals what is hidden. And when you stop fighting life, you begin to see that every challenge carries a miracle inside it, waiting for the moment you become still enough to open it. Feel into this idea for a moment. Let it settle in your chest like a warm stone. Think of the obstacles you've faced, recent ones, old ones, the ones that shook you, the ones that left you uncertain, the ones that kept you awake at night. In the moment, they felt like blockages. They felt like endings. But look closely at the path behind you, and you will see that many of them were the catalysts that pushed you toward experiences, relationships, and opportunities that would never have unfolded without that initial struggle. The miracle wasn't separate from the obstacle. It was hidden inside it. The fear-based mind interprets difficulty as danger. The aligned soul interprets difficulty as direction. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. The ego's voice insists that obstacles mean something is wrong. But the soul knows obstacles mean something is shifting. As your breath softens, imagine for a moment that every challenge you've ever faced had a quiet purpose tucked inside it. A hidden alignment, a redirection, a whisper from the divine saying, "Not here, not this way, this is not your door." Even the disappointments you begged to avoid, even the losses you thought would break you, even the detours that felt like delays. There is a kind of miracle that can only enter when the previous path is blocked. If the way ahead stayed open, you would keep walking toward what wasn't meant for you. So life, in its precise intelligence, places obstacles where your soul needs pause, reflection, or redirection. This is why Rabbi David often says, "If a wall appears, don't curse the wall. Touch it. Listen to it. There is gold on the other side." Let yourself feel the truth in that. The moment you stop resisting, the obstacle stops towering over you and begins revealing its message. It softens. It shrinks. It becomes a teacher instead of a threat. And when you look back on your life from a place of calm, you will see that many of your miracles came disguised as inconveniences, or heartbreaks, or endings, or disappointments that forced you to reevaluate what you truly wanted. Some of the greatest blessings come wrapped in circumstances that make no sense until much later. But here, in this softened space, you don't need the entire explanation. You don't need to understand the choreography. You only need to trust that there is one. Feel that trust settling in your body. Feel your breath deepening again. Feel the weight of the challenges you once carried beginning to dissolve. You no longer need to hold them with fear. You can hold them with curiosity, with gentleness, with the quiet knowing that life has never abandoned you, even in the moments that felt the darkest. Every obstacle you faced did something to you, something sacred, something strengthening, something aligning. It peeled away illusions. It clarified desires. It taught resilience. It amplified your capacity to receive the miracle that was waiting behind the curtain of confusion. And as you lie here now, resting in a state where the soul guides and the ego grows quiet, you can feel a subtle gratitude begin to rise, not for the pain, but for the transformation it brought, not for the difficulty, but for the doorway it revealed, not for the obstacle itself, but for the way it shaped your consciousness into something stronger, wiser, softer, and more attuned to divine alignment. There is a miracle woven into every challenge you've endured. There is a blessing curled inside each detour. There is a new level of clarity hidden in every closed door. The obstacles were never signs of abandonment. They were signals of preparation. They were the universe rearranging your reality so it could place you exactly where you were always meant to arrive. And now, in this gentle stillness, you can feel that truth begin to breathe inside you, quietly, steadily, like the first hint of dawn before the sun rises. And as the understanding settles more deeply, that every obstacle has held a quiet miracle meant to expand you rather than break you, something else begins to awaken within you. A realization just as gentle, just as transformative. It's the recognition that there is a kind of inner technology available to you at all times. A spiritual mechanism that rewires your consciousness, reshapes your vessel, and opens the flow of blessings in a way few people ever fully understand. Gratitude. Not the sentimental version, not the polite version, not the version spoken through gritted teeth when life feels heavy, but the Kabbalistic truth behind it. Gratitude as a spiritual technology. Rabbi David often teaches that gratitude is not an emotion, it's a frequency, a vibrational alignment tool, a mechanism through which the soul expands its capacity to receive. In the physical world, we believe we must get something before we can feel grateful. In the spiritual world, it works in the opposite direction. We feel grateful so we can get something. Gratitude is not a reaction, it is an activation. It doesn't follow the blessing, it creates the vessel for the blessing. As you rest here, breathing slowly and deeply, notice how different this understanding feels. It means that gratitude is not dependent on circumstance. It is not something you wait for. It is something you turn on, like a light switch inside your consciousness. And that switch changes everything. In Kabbalah, gratitude is a tool that expands the soul's vessel. When you express gratitude, even for something small, even for something subtle, you expand your capacity to hold more goodness, more peace, more abundance. You become like a cup that grows in size each time it recognizes even a drop of blessing. The ego sees what is missing. The soul sees what is present. Gratitude is how the soul speaks. Imagine just for a moment your consciousness as a container. When it is filled with fear, doubt, resentment or lack, there is little room for blessings to flow in. But when gratitude begins to rise within you, not as a fleeting feeling, but as a deliberate practice, it clears space, it purifies, it widens, it invites. Gratitude doesn't deny your challenges, it transforms the energy around them. It shifts your lens from, "Why is this happening to me?" to, "What is this preparing me for?" It doesn't erase difficulty, but it reveals the thread of divine intelligence woven through it. You may notice that even now, as your body softens into rest, there is a quiet warmth forming inside your chest. Subtle, almost like a small flame beginning to glow. That sensation is the beginning of gratitude as a technology. It's not excitement, it's not joy, it's presence. It's the awareness of something good, even if that good is simply the breath moving gently in and out of your lungs. When gratitude is activated, even softly, it begins to shift your spiritual chemistry. Your nervous system relaxes, your heart opens, your energy expands, and with each expansion, your capacity to receive increases. This is why Rabbi David says gratitude is the most powerful spiritual tool for abundance. Because abundance does not enter a constricted vessel. It enters a vessel that is open, spacious, receptive. Gratitude is what creates that inner spaciousness. Feel into that now. Let your breath deepen. Let your body soften. Let gratitude gently rise, not forced, not overly enthusiastic, simply present. Perhaps you feel grateful for this moment of rest. Perhaps for a lesson learned long ago. Perhaps for something small like warmth or safety or breath. It doesn't matter how small the gratitude is. Even a thread of it expands your vessel. Gratitude says to the universe, "I am ready. I can hold more. I recognize the flow already here." And the universe responds to that recognition by increasing the flow. This is technology, a mechanism, a law of spiritual physics. When you generate gratitude, you become aligned with the frequency of abundance, not by trying to force blessings, but by making yourself into someone who can hold them without collapsing. Imagine your heart widening slightly with each breath. Imagine your inner vessel expanding gently. Imagine space opening inside you, not for pressure, but for possibility. Gratitude doesn't require your life to be perfect. It requires your awareness to be open. And in this quiet moment, with your soul leading and your ego resting, you are tapping into one of the highest frequencies available to human consciousness. The frequency that transforms scarcity into expansion, fear into trust, obstacles into miracles. Gratitude, as the ancient sages understood, is the doorway through which divine abundance enters. And tonight, that doorway is opening inside you, not because something happened, but because you are choosing to open it. And as that inner doorway of gratitude opens wider, creating space for more light, more clarity, and more divine flow to enter your life, another truth gently rises to meet you. One that Rabbi David emphasizes again and again, because so many people misunderstand it. Wealth, in the spiritual sense, is not an accident. It is not luck. It is not a cosmic coincidence granted to a few and withheld from others. Wealth begins with responsibility, with stewardship, with the conscious decision to become someone who can hold abundance without collapsing under its weight. Abundance is not fragile. People are fragile when they receive it without preparation. And so the divine, in its perfect wisdom, does not send large blessings into small, unready vessels. Not because you are unworthy, but because you are valued. Because the universe understands the sacred weight of abundance, and it refuses to harm you by giving you something you cannot yet sustain. Responsibility, then, is not a burden. It is an expansion of capacity. It is the strengthening of the vessel you've been widening through alignment and gratitude. Sink into that truth for a moment. Let it soften something inside you. Responsibility is a form of spiritual maturity. It is the quiet decision to show up with integrity, with awareness, with devotion to growth. It is the choice to handle what you already have with care, so that more can be entrusted to you. Rabbi David often says that the universe operates like a wise investor. It doesn't place abundance where it will be drained, wasted, or used unconsciously. It invests in those who show that they are ready to steward the blessing with clarity and love. And readiness is revealed not through longing, but through responsibility. Responsibility in thought, responsibility in emotion, responsibility in action, responsibility in how you treat your resources, your opportunities, your relationships, your time. Feel the depth of that. Not as pressure, but as empowerment. Wealth is not a destination, it is a relationship. A relationship between you, the divine, and the way you hold what you are given. If you hold it with fear, it shrinks. If you hold it with gratitude, it expands. If you hold it with responsibility, it stabilizes and multiplies. And responsibility doesn't mean perfection. It means awareness. It means noticing when you're operating from old wounds and gently shifting back into alignment. It means honoring your word, even in small ways. It means caring for your environment, your body, your finances, your commitments, with a calm, grounded presence. It means recognizing that every blessing you hold, no matter how small, is a seed capable of growing into something larger when tended with care. Imagine a gardener. If they cannot nurture a small plant, they cannot sustain a field. If they refuse to water, prune, or protect what they have, the universe will not send more for them to neglect. But when they show devotion to the small garden they currently hold, suddenly they become ready for acres. Responsibility is the spiritual act of tending your garden. And the moment you begin treating your life as something worth tending, the universe begins treating you as someone ready to receive more. You may not realize it, but you are already practicing this in subtle ways. Every moment you choose calm over chaos, you strengthen your vessel. Every moment you show up with integrity, especially when no one is watching, you widen your capacity to receive. Every moment you make a conscious choice instead of an unconscious reaction, you graduate into a higher level of spiritual partnership. Wealth doesn't respond to desperation, it responds to stewardship. The divine does not bless panic, it blesses presence. And you are learning presence right now, in the stillness of your breath, in the slowing of your thoughts, in the way your body has begun to soften into trust. Responsibility begins internally, long before it appears externally. It begins with the decision to handle your inner world with the same care you wish to bring to your outer one. It begins with tending the soil of your mind, your emotions, your beliefs, your habits. When those are aligned, when those are cared for, when those are treated with reverence, the outer world begins to reflect that readiness back to you. Wealth has little to do with the numbers in your account, and everything to do with the structure of your consciousness. The divine is constantly asking, can you hold the weight of what you're asking for? When the answer becomes yes, not because of luck, but because of responsibility, blessings begin to flow in ways that feel effortless. Let your breath deepen again. Let your inner vessel widen just a little more. Feel yourself becoming someone capable of receiving without fear, holding without tension, and expanding without collapsing. This is the foundation of true wealth. Not luck, not chance, but the quiet, steady cultivation of a soul that knows how to carry abundance with grace. And as the understanding settles that responsibility is the quiet groundwork of abundance, another layer of truth begins to rise, one that many people resist without realizing it. Because even as they try to be responsible, even as they try to align, even as they grow and soften and open, there is a whisper inside them that says, "But I'm still not perfect. I still make mistakes. I still struggle. Maybe I'm not worthy yet." This whisper does more damage than any external obstacle ever could. It's the voice that turns genuine growth into self-judgment. It's the voice that measures spiritual progress with impossible standards. It's the voice that convinces you that flaws disqualify you from receiving blessings. But Rabbi David teaches something entirely different, something tender, something liberating. Perfection has never been the requirement for divine blessing. openness is. Blessings do not arrive because you are flawless. They arrive because you are willing. Willing to grow, willing to shift, willing to learn, willing to be guided even with shaky hands and an imperfect heart. Feel the relief in that. Let it loosen something inside you. Because perfection is a prison of the ego, not a condition of the divine. The ego believes you must earn worthiness, prove yourself, fix yourself, purify yourself before abundance can enter. But the soul knows truth. The soul knows you were born worthy, and that your imperfections do not block blessings unless you weaponize them against yourself. Think of a child learning to walk. They wobble, they fall, they make clumsy steps, and yet every step is celebrated. Every attempt is progress. Every fall is proof of movement. Nobody punishes a child for not walking perfectly. Nobody withholds support until the child figures it all out on their own. And the divine sees you with the same tenderness. Your attempts matter more than your mastery. Your direction matters more than your perfection. Your sincerity matters more than your consistency. In Kabbalah, spiritual progress is measured not by how often you succeed, but by how frequently you return. Return to alignment. Return to gratitude. Return to responsibility. Return to your soul's voice. Return to the truth after wandering in fear or doubt. That return, again and again, is what creates miracles. The universe does not expect you to walk a flawless path. It simply asks you to keep walking. Feel how your breath softens as that truth lands. Feel the shame you've been carrying, subtle, heavy, long-standing, begin to loosen. Shame has a way of shrinking your energy, tightening your vessel, convincing you to hide from blessings instead of receiving them. But your imperfections do not disqualify you. They make you human. They make you real. They make your growth meaningful. If you were already perfect, transformation would be impossible. If you never fell, rising would have no power. If you never struggled, receiving would have no depth. Rabbi David often says that blessings flow to those who are in motion, not those who are perfect, because motion indicates faith. Even the smallest step forward is a declaration that you are willing to participate in your own becoming. Let your breath deepen. Feel the softness returning to your chest. Feel the heaviness lifting from the center of your being. You do not need to earn divine love. You do not need to perform holiness. You do not need to hide your flaws from the universe. The divine already knows you, fully, gently, compassionately, and chooses you anyway. Blessings are not a reward for perfection. They are a response to alignment. And you are aligning right now, simply by being present, by breathing, by opening, by allowing the old judgments to dissolve into this quiet, healing space. You can receive even as you grow. You can receive even as you heal. You can receive even as you learn. You can receive even as you fall and rise and fall again. Your imperfections don't block blessings. They create the openings through which blessings enter. They soften you. they humble you. They make you receptive. A perfect vessel is sealed and rigid. An imperfect vessel absorbs, expands, transforms. Let yourself feel the relief of no longer needing to perform worthiness. Let yourself feel the comfort of knowing you are not disqualified by your humanity. Let yourself feel the truth that blessings are not delayed until you become flawless. They arrive when you are ready to receive them with sincerity, humility, and an open heart. You are already enough for miracles to begin, not because you are perfect, but because you are in motion, because you are listening, because you are opening, because you are willing. And that willingness is the greatest spiritual qualification of all. And as the truth settles deeper, that you are allowed to receive even in your imperfection, even in your becoming, a gentle spaciousness fills your inner world, almost like a fresh breeze moving through a room that has been closed for years. And in this spaciousness, something extraordinary becomes possible. The rewriting of the narrative you carry inside you. Because whether you've noticed or not, your life is shaped far less by the world outside and far more by the quiet, ongoing story playing inside your subconscious. The story you absorbed when you were too young to question it. The story you inherited from parents, teachers, culture, scarcity, fear. The story that whispers to you in moments of doubt, telling you who you are, what is possible for you, and what you're allowed to receive. Most people never rewrite that story. They simply live inside it. They accept its limitations as truth. They mistake its fears for intuition. They build their lives around beliefs that were never theirs to begin with. But the stillness you're entering now, the softness between waking and sleep, is the most powerful moment of the day. It is the doorway to the subconscious, the place where old programming loosens and new beliefs can be planted like seeds in fertile soil. This is where transformation happens, quietly, gently, without force. Rabbi David teaches that the subconscious is the soil of the soul. Whatever is planted there grows. Whatever is repeated becomes reality. And this is why your inner narrative matters more than your circumstances. Circumstances shift when the narrative shifts, not the other way around. Feel your breath deepen as you become aware of that truth. Feel the edges of your old story starting to dissolve, not through effort, but through the simple act of resting with awareness. When you sleep, the ego finally releases its grip. The defenses loosen, the patterns soften. The subconscious becomes porous, ready to receive new instructions. And tonight, as your body continues to relax, you are gently choosing which instructions enter. You are choosing to release the old story, the one shaped by scarcity, survival, judgment, and self-doubt. The story that told you that the world is limited, that money is hard to come by, that blessings are rare, that abundance is for other people, that you must prove your worth before receiving anything good. That outdated narrative has been quietly steering your life for far too long. But here, in this softened space, you can begin releasing it, not by fighting it, but by letting it fall away like leaves that no longer belong to the tree. Feel the pages turning inside you. Feel the old script loosening its hold. Feel the subconscious softening, becoming more receptive, more open. As your breath moves slowly through you, imagine each inhale as a new belief entering your system, and each exhale as an old belief leaving without resistance. Inhale, I am supported. Exhale, I release the fear of not enough. Inhale, abundance flows toward me. Exhale, scarcity no longer defines me. Inhale, I am worthy of receiving. Exhale, I release the story that I must struggle. These are not affirmations, they are recalibrations. You are tuning your inner story to a new frequency. You're teaching the subconscious to recognize abundance as natural, not exceptional. You're teaching it to expect guidance, trust, opportunity and flow, not chaos or deprivation. You are allowing your deepest self to finally speak and be heard. And while you sleep, this work continues. The subconscious doesn't rest, it absorbs, it reorganizes, it reprograms, it integrates, it rewires neural pathways. This is why nighttime is sacred. It's when your consciousness is most open to divine partnership. Rabbi David often says that sleep is not an escape from life. It's a return to the soul's workshop, a place where old wounds can be soothed, old patterns can be unwound, and new pathways can be carved with clarity and gentleness. So, as your body grows heavier, as your mind drifts, as the ego quiets into a whisper, imagine your inner narrative being rewritten with softness, not erased, honored and transformed. Every challenging chapter becomes wisdom. Every painful belief becomes compost for new growth. Every moment of survival becomes the foundation for a new story rooted in peace, abundance, and possibility. Feel how empowering that is. Feel how freeing it is. Feel how light you become when the story changes from within. You are not bound to your past. You are not limited by your old programming. You are not condemned to repeat the same patterns. You are stepping into a new narrative, one that reflects who you truly are rather than who you were told to be. A narrative shaped by alignment, guided by the soul, supported by the divine. A narrative that unfolds even as you sleep, gently, quietly, rewriting the architecture of your reality from the inside out. And tonight, your subconscious is listening, and it is ready. And as the inner narrative begins to soften and shift, as new beliefs settle into the subconscious like seeds in warm soil, the body continues its gentle surrender into rest. And in this drift, something ancient begins to stir, a teaching as old as the tradition itself, whispered through generations, carried through centuries, preserved in the pages of the Talmud, a teaching about what truly happens to you as you sleep. Because sleep is not simply biological, it is spiritual, it is movement, it is ascent. The Talmud teaches that when you sleep, a portion of your soul rises, not the part that animates your breathing or keeps the heart beating. That part stays with the body, but a higher part, a more expansive part, begins to ascend toward realms your waking mind cannot access. Realms of clarity, realms of wisdom, realms of pure spiritual nourishment. This is why sleep is called 1/60th of death. Not in a frightening sense, but in a liberating one. It is a temporary release from your physical limitations, a quiet lifting of the veil, a moment where the soul is free enough to drink from the well of higher understanding, and as this portion of the soul rises, it gathers things you could never gather while awake. Because the noise of the world is gone, the ego is silent, the defenses are down, you are open, you are unguarded, you are receptive. And the divine flow takes advantage of that openness to send wisdom, guidance, renewal. Rabbi David often calls sleep the meeting place, the place where the human and the divine overlap with the least resistance, where wisdom is not learned but absorbed, where clarity is not forced but received, where healing does not require effort, only surrender. Feel the comfort in that. Feel how soft that truth is. Feel how it wraps around the mind like a warm blanket. You don't need to understand everything consciously. You don't need to solve every problem before you close your eyes. You don't need to figure out your entire life tonight. Your soul is already working. Your soul is already gathering. Your soul is already ascending into wisdom that will drip into your waking life in perfectly timed insights, quiet breakthroughs, gentle realizations. And tonight, with your vessel expanding, your narrative shifting, your heart softening, the ascent becomes even more effortless. The Talmud teaches that during sleep, the soul returns to the storehouse of wisdom, the spiritual reservoir from which intuition, creativity, guidance, and even sudden inspiration originate. When you wake with a new idea you never consciously thought about, it is because your soul received it during the ascent. When you wake with peace after going to sleep troubled, it is because your soul released the burden where burdens go to dissolve. When you wake with clarity on a decision that felt tangled before bed, it is because your soul was shown a higher perspective. Tonight, that process will be especially strong because you are entering sleep consciously, not accidentally. You are entering it aligned, open, and willing. You are entering it with the intention of growth, renewal, and receiving. Feel your breath slowing. Feel your body growing heavier. Feel your mind widening into a quiet expanse where new wisdom can settle effortlessly. Your soul is preparing to rise, not in a dramatic way, not in a way you will consciously feel, but in the gentle, natural way it always does when the body sleeps. Only tonight, the ascent will be deeper, because you are ready for more. The Talmud describes this process with such tenderness. The soul leaves the body only enough to learn, not enough to disconnect. It rises only enough to receive, not enough to disappear. It ascends only enough to return with gifts, spiritual insights, emotional balance, inner strength. And when it comes back, it brings what it gathered into your daily consciousness. Not as thunder, not as revelation, but as quiet knowing. You'll notice it in the way you respond differently to something that once triggered you, in the ease with which you make a decision that used to overwhelm you, in the soft confidence you carry without trying, in the calm trust that replaces old patterns of fear. That is the soul's wisdom made tangible. Sleep is not passive. It is partnership. It is participation in your own unfolding. It is your soul stepping into realms your waking mind cannot access, so you can become the person your destiny has been whispering you toward. And tonight, as you continue drifting deeper, your soul is already beginning to prepare. It is loosening its hold on the day. It is dimming the ego's voice. It is rising toward the subtle, sacred places where wisdom waits patiently for the moment you become quiet enough to receive it, and you are becoming quiet enough now. And as the soul prepares for its gentle ascent into the storehouse of wisdom, your body begins to settle into an even deeper stillness, a stillness that is more than rest. It is a kind of inner quiet that feels ancient, familiar, and deeply safe. This is the place where peace becomes not an idea, but a frequency, a vibration, a state of being that rises naturally when everything inside you softens into harmony. Peace is not the absence of noise or responsibility. Peace is the alignment of your inner world. Peace is the quieting of the storms you no longer need to carry. Peace is the remembrance of who you are beneath the layers of worry, fear, and expectation. The sages knew that peace is not something you chase, it is something you tune into. Just as a radio picks up different frequencies depending on how precisely it's adjusted, your soul can tune into the frequency of shalom, a word far richer than peace. Shalom means wholeness, completion, harmony, balance. It means nothing missing, nothing broken. It is the energetic state where all parts of you, mind, body, soul, move in the same direction, like instruments in a perfectly tuned orchestra. And right now, as your breath slows and the last defenses of the mind fade into softness, you are slipping into that frequency. Feel how your breath now moves like a gentle tide, steady and unhurried. Feel the way your thoughts drift without clinging. Feel the way your muscles melt, as if remembering how to release after holding for so long. You are not forcing calm. You are returning to it. Peace is your default state, not anxiety, not urgency, not fear. Those came later, shaped by life, layered on by experiences, absorbed through years of trying to survive in a world that taught you to stay alert. But beneath all that, beneath the noise and the stories and the old programming, peace has always been waiting. And tonight, as your subconscious becomes more open and your soul prepares to rise, you can feel yourself tuning into it with exquisite clarity. Imagine for a moment that peace is a gentle frequency vibrating all around you, like a soft hum in the air. You don't need to reach for it. You simply need to relax into it, like sinking into warm water. With each breath, feel yourself sinking deeper into that warmth. If there is any tension left in your body, between the ribs, in the jaw, behind the eyes, let it dissolve slowly, like ice melting in sunlight. If any thought tries to pull you away, let it drift like a feather caught in a breeze. There is nothing to fix, nothing to control, nothing to analyze. Only the slow, steady descent into a frequency your soul recognizes instinctively. Rabbi David often teaches that peace is not created, it is uncovered. You uncover peace when you release judgment. You uncover peace when you release control. You uncover peace when you stop rehearsing old fears. You uncover peace when you allow yourself to simply be. Notice how even your heartbeat begins to steady, becoming more rhythmic, more gentle, more aligned with this new vibration. Notice how your breath now feels connected to something larger, as if you're breathing in harmony with the universe itself. This is what alignment feels like. This is what shalom feels like. A deep inner exhale, a melting, a remembering. And you don't need to force any of this. Peace is not a task. It is a frequency that becomes accessible the moment you stop resisting it. It rises naturally when you give yourself permission to soften, when you allow yourself to stop striving. When you no longer try to hold yourself together through sheer force, peace holds you. Feel that now, the sensation of being held, supported, cradled, like the universe is gently cupping your soul in its hands, like the tension you carried for years is finally sliding off your shoulders and onto the earth, where it can be absorbed, transformed, released. Your soul, already preparing for its nightly ascent, feels lighter in this state, more buoyant, more spacious, because peace is not only calming, it is elevating. It lifts you, even as your body sinks deeper into stillness. It opens channels that fear constricted. It allows wisdom to flow into places where anxiety used to dwell. And in this frequency of peace, your energy becomes coherent, your thoughts become gentle, your emotions become balanced, your nervous system becomes soothed, you become a vessel that can both receive and release with ease. Let yourself linger in this sensation. Let peace move through the body like a soft wave. Let it gather behind the sternum, in the spine, in the hips, in the back of the throat. Let it smooth everything it touches. This is harmony. This is inner balance. This is the frequency of shalom, your birthright, your home, your natural resting place. And as your breath continues to deepen, you feel yourself slipping further into it, carried by it, renewed by it, held by it in a way that requires nothing of you except your willingness to surrender into the softness. Peace is here. Peace is around you. Peace is rising within you. Peace is what your soul has been waiting to return to. And as the frequency of peace settles through you, soft, warm, steady, your heart becomes more open than it has been in a long time. Open in a way that allows another layer of spiritual truth to reveal itself, almost like a whispered secret carried on a quiet breeze. It is the understanding that peace does not only soothe, it expands. And when the heart expands, something beautiful happens. It becomes capable of blessing others. This is where one of the most powerful, misunderstood spiritual laws begins to unfold. A law Rabbi David calls the hidden wealth principle. What you bless, blesses you back, not as superstition, not as performance, not as religious ritual, but as a law of spiritual reciprocity woven into the fabric of existence. Blessing is not about words, it's about energy, it's about intention, it's about sending out a vibration that cannot help but find its way back to the one who released it. Most people misunderstand blessings. They think blessing others depletes them, that generosity drains them, that kindness diminishes what they have. But spiritually, the opposite is true. When you bless someone from a place of genuine expansion, you widen your own vessel. You become a clearer channel for divine flow. The energy you send out does not leave you empty. It multiplies as it returns. Feel into that for a moment. Let it land softly within you. Imagine blessing as a gentle ripple you release into a still lake. The ripple doesn't vanish. It travels outward and then returns to you amplified, transformed by the journey it has taken. This is why the sages taught that blessing others is one of the most powerful ways to call abundance into your own life, quietly, humbly, without force. When you bless someone's success, you align yourself with success. When you bless someone's happiness, you align yourself with happiness. When you bless someone's abundance, you align yourself with abundance. The ego resists this. Of course, the ego fears lack. It says, "Why bless them? What about me?" It believes life is finite, that blessings are limited, that someone else's gain diminishes your own. But the soul knows better. The soul knows that what you celebrate expands, both in the world and within you. Feel the difference in your chest between the ego's tightness and the soul's openness. Feel how blessing comes naturally when your heart is no longer constricted by fear. Blessing is one of the purest expressions of peace. It is what peace naturally wants to do: extend itself, share itself, radiate outward. Blessing someone requires no ritual, no special words, no dramatic gesture. It requires only the soft willingness to wish good upon someone with sincerity. You can do it quietly, silently, even anonymously, and the echo will still return. You can bless someone you love. You can bless someone you envy. You can bless someone who has hurt you. You can bless a stranger passing you in thought. You can bless a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable. Every blessing you extend becomes part of your spiritual architecture. It shapes your inner state. It widens your vessel, allowing greater flow into your life. because the act of blessing rewires your consciousness to operate from abundance rather than scarcity. Feel how soft and natural it becomes in this peaceful state. Perhaps you visualize someone in your mind, someone who could use a gentle blessing right now. Whisper inside yourself, "May goodness find you. May you be guided, may you be supported, may you be at peace." Notice how the blessing doesn't drain you. It enriches you. Notice how it softens you. Notice how it opens you. You may even feel a warm sensation in the chest, a tingling in the hands, or a deepening of breath. These are signs that the vessel is widening, that divine flow is strengthening, that your energy is aligning with the frequency of giving and receiving, because blessing is not one-directional. It is circular, it is reciprocal, it is a spiritual boomerang, sent from you, carried by love, returned, multiplied. The moment you bless someone else, you remove yourself from the vibration of envy, competition, or lack. You shift into harmony with divine generosity, and generosity always flows back toward itself. Rabbi David often says, "If you want to know who will become wealthy, look for the one who celebrates others." And that celebration need not be loud. In fact, the quiet blessings, the ones spoken in silence, the ones whispered in the heart, are often the most powerful because they come from sincerity rather than performance. Feel yourself becoming someone who blesses easily, someone whose presence uplifts, someone whose energy nourishes, someone whose heart radiates goodness without fear of depletion. This is the hidden wealth principle. This is how abundance travels. This is how blessings multiply, not through striving, not through force, but through the steady, gentle flow of sincere intention. And tonight, in this peaceful state, your heart is open enough to feel the truth of it. What you bless, blesses you back, always, quietly, effortlessly, multiplying through the invisible currents of spiritual reciprocity that surround you. And as that gentle truth, that blessings return multiplied, settles into your heart, you may begin to feel an unexpected lightness, a quiet reassurance that the universe responds to even your smallest intentions. That same principle leads naturally into another truth, one Rabbi David returns to again and again. Miracles rarely arrive through grand gestures. They emerge through small, faithful steps taken with sincerity. So many people wait for a dramatic shift, a sudden breakthrough, a moment where everything finally changes. They imagine miracles as thunderclaps, loud and unmistakable. But in reality, most miracles are whispers. They begin subtly, they grow quietly. They unfold one gentle movement at a time, often so gradually that you don't realize how far you've traveled until you look back. In this softening state, as your breath deepens and your mind drifts just above sleep, you can allow this truth to sink deeper. You do not need to leap. You only need to step. Feel how comforting that is, how achievable, how relieving. Miracles are not built on perfection, they are built on movement. A single step forward, even a tiny one, creates momentum in the unseen realms. It signals to the universe, to your consciousness, to your soul, "I am willing." And willingness is the spark that lights every miracle. Rabbi David often describes his own journey this way. He didn't go from broke to wealthy in one dramatic transformation. He took one small action, one small shift in thinking, one small change in behavior at a time. A dollar saved here, a fear released there, a prayer said with sincerity, a risk taken despite trembling hands, a decision to bless rather than resent, a moment of discipline on a day he felt like giving up. Nothing flashy, nothing drastic, just small steps repeated. But small steps, when aligned with divine intention, accumulate. They compound. They create openings where before there were walls. They build momentum in the visible and invisible layers of life. Even now, as you rest, Your mind may be softening around the idea that you don't need to fix everything at once. You don't need to figure out the exact path. You don't need to see the entire staircase. The soul doesn't operate in leaps. It operates in steps, soft, steady, faithful. Imagine a candle in a dark room. It doesn't illuminate the whole space at once, but one small flame pushes the darkness back just enough for you to take a step. And once you take that step, the light moves with you. That is how spiritual progress works. That is how wealth is built. That is how healing unfolds. That is how blessings accumulate. Your small steps are not insignificant. They are sacred. Even the smallest step taken with alignment carries the energy of 10 larger steps taken in fear. A step rooted in peace moves more powerfully than a sprint rooted in panic, because movement is not measured by speed, it is measured by intention. Feel how this truth relaxes something inside you. There is no rush, there is no pressure, there is no punishment for moving slowly. Your only task is to keep moving gently toward what aligns with your soul. If there is something in your life that feels overwhelming right now, money, relationships, health, purpose, allow yourself to imagine taking just one small step toward healing it. Not the whole journey, just one step. Let the thought of that step be light, almost like a feather landing in your palm. Notice how your chest opens slightly at the idea. Notice how your breath deepens. Notice how the heaviness around that challenge softens, even if only a little. This is what small steps do. They transform mountains into manageable hills. They turn fear into curiosity. They replace paralysis with gentle movement. They open doors you thought were locked. And the beautiful part is that the universe responds to small steps with surprising generosity, because small steps come from humility, sincerity, and willingness, and those qualities draw spiritual assistance. When you move even a little, the divine moves a lot. The world around you rearranges, opportunities arise, insights appear, paths open, all because you were willing to take one step. Let yourself breathe into this truth. Feel its softness, feel its encouragement, feel its simplicity. You don't need to become someone new overnight. You don't need to heal decades of pain in a single moment. You don't need to create wealth in one dramatic transformation. Small steps, taken faithfully, create big miracles. And as you drift deeper into rest, let this understanding wash through you like warm light, reminding you that forward motion does not need to be forceful, it only needs to be sincere. Your path will unfold gently, one small step at a time, guided by peace, supported by blessing, and aligned with the quiet momentum of your soul. And as the truth of gentle steps settles into your being, softening the mind, loosening the body, quieting the last remnants of pressure, you begin to feel another layer of understanding rising from within. A truth so simple and so quiet that most people overlook it, even though it determines more of a person's destiny than talent, intelligence, or opportunity ever could. It is the quiet power of integrity. Integrity is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not demand applause. It does not try to impress. Integrity is the soft, steady alignment between who you are inside and how you move in the world. It is the unseen choice you make when no one is watching. The small kindness extended without any expectation. The honest word spoken even when a lie would be easier. The fairness you offer even when life has not always been fair to you. Integrity is a spiritual frequency, and like every frequency, it attracts what matches it. Rabbi David often teaches that that abundance flows most freely toward those whose inner world is clean. Clean of manipulation, clean of deceit, clean of resentment, clean of the subtle ways we sometimes betray ourselves. Not because the universe rewards goodness in a moralistic way, but because integrity creates coherence inside the soul. And coherence is the foundation upon which all true prosperity rests. Right now, as your breath deepens and your body grows even heavier against the bed, you can feel yourself aligning with that coherence. Notice the faint serenity that spreads when you imagine acting from honesty. Notice the ease that comes when you picture yourself being fair, even in small ways. Notice the warmth that rises when you recall a moment when you were kind without needing recognition. Those moments left an imprint on your soul, a gentle glow that expands each time you honor it. Integrity doesn't always feel glamorous. Sometimes it looks like turning down an opportunity that conflicts with your values. Sometimes it looks like admitting a mistake. Sometimes it looks like refusing money that comes through a compromised path. Sometimes it looks like treating someone with dignity even when they didn't treat you the same. But each quiet act of integrity widens your vessel. It clears the blocks. It untangles the knots. It invites divine flow to move through you with greater ease. There is a story Rabbi David tells about a time early in his journey when money was scarce and choices were heavy. A business opportunity arrived. Quick profit, little effort, no transparency. Every worldly voice told him to take it. But something in him felt a quiet resistance, a subtle tightening, a whisper that said, "This is not your path." And even though he needed the money, he stepped away. Weeks later, a different opportunity arose, one aligned with truth, one requiring patience and character. It didn't glitter on the outside, but it was clean, it was honest, it was right. That opportunity became the foundation of the wealth he built, the abundance he would later teach others to access. Integrity delayed nothing. It prepared him, it positioned him, it protected him. And this is the secret. Integrity protects abundance. It creates a container strong enough to hold blessings. It keeps the vessel from cracking under pressure. It ensures that whatever flows into your life remains stable, sustainable, and aligned. Feel that truth settling gently into your heart, not as a command, not as a rule, but as a quiet reassurance that your most honest choices have already shaped your path in ways you cannot fully see. That every act of kindness has echoed, that every fair decision has planted seeds, that every moment of truthfulness has carved a channel through which future blessings will flow. Integrity makes you trustworthy in the eyes of the universe, not because the divine mistrusts, but because integrity creates clarity, and clarity attracts provision. When your inner world is clean, blessings know where to land. When your actions match your soul, abundance recognizes you. When your kindness is sincere, opportunities seek you out. Notice how comforting it is to know that prosperity does not depend on perfection. It depends on alignment, on sincerity, on the small, consistent choices that honor who you truly are. Let yourself relax deeper into this understanding. Imagine a soft light forming around you, a light made of every honest moment you've ever lived, every kindness, every act of fairness. Feel that light strengthening you. Feel it protecting you. Feel it attracting what is meant for you with gentle certainty. Integrity is quiet, but its power is profound. It anchors you, it cleanses you, it aligns you with abundance that lasts. And as you sink deeper into rest, allow this truth to fill your breath, soften your heart, and steady your spirit. When you walk with integrity, you walk with divine flow at your side. And as the soft power of integrity settles deeper into your chest, steady, anchoring, warm, you may begin to notice a shift in the way you feel about yourself. A loosened tension, a lightness in the breath, a quiet recognition that you are becoming someone who moves through the world with clarity, sincerity, and inner strength. From that place of inner coherence, another truth begins to rise gently to the surface. A truth that many people avoid, fear, or misunderstand for years. Your relationship with money is not a financial matter. It is a spiritual one. Money is not cold or mechanical or soulless. Money is energy. Money is a mirror. Money is a messenger. Money responds to the state of your consciousness just as surely as plants respond to sunlight. And the world has taught you so many conflicting lessons about it, lessons rooted in fear, in shame, in scarcity, in generational wounds, that it is no wonder so many people carry tension whenever they think about it. But tonight, as your breathing slows and your mind begins to drift between awareness and rest, you can allow something softer to unfold. You can begin to repair your relationship with money, not through force or logic, but through gentle recognition of what money truly is. Money is not your enemy. Money is not a threat. Money is not a judge of your worth. Money is not a test you keep failing. Money is a spiritual ally that has been waiting for you to stop fearing it. Feel how your body responds to that idea. Curious, cautious, but also relieved. Something inside you already knows this is true. Money has never been the problem. The stories around it have. Stories inherited from parents who struggled. Stories absorbed from culture, from religion, from school. Stories shaped by survival, by scarcity, by moments when life felt heavy. Stories formed during times when you didn't feel safe. But a story is not a destiny. A belief is not a law. And tonight, in this soft, quiet state, you can begin rewriting those stories in the most gentle way possible. By remembering that money is simply a tool, a flow, a form of divine provision that takes physical shape. If you've ever felt guilt about wanting money, if you've ever felt fear about losing it, if you've ever felt shame about not having enough, if you've ever felt unworthy of abundance, let those feelings rise for a moment, not to trouble you, but to loosen their grip. Every feeling you've carried around money began as a form of protection. Your mind tried to keep you safe. Your heart tried to prevent disappointment. Your nervous system tried to shield you from the pain of uncertainty. But now, in this spacious, quiet moment, you are safe enough to see money differently. Imagine money as a river, a living, flowing stream that moves toward openness, trust, clarity, and alignment. The river does not judge. It does not punish. It does not discriminate. It simply flows. And when fear closes the vessel, the river cannot enter, not because it chooses not to, but because the opening is too tight. When shame blocks the doorway, the flow slows. When judgment builds walls, abundance cannot pass through them, no matter how hard you try to force it. This is why repairing your relationship with money is not about budgets or discipline or strategies. Those have their place, but they are not the foundation. The foundation is your energy, your beliefs, your openness, your willingness to see money as a partner rather than a threat. Feel into that now. Feel the tenderness of it. Feel the shift. Money wants to work with you. Money wants to support you. Money wants to move toward you when your heart is aligned with peace, integrity, and purpose. Allow yourself to imagine money as a gentle presence beside you, not demanding, not judging, not pushing, simply waiting for you to soften enough to receive it without fear. You don't need to chase it. You don't need to impress it. You don't need to earn your worthiness to hold it. You don't need to punish yourself for past mistakes. All you need right now is a quiet willingness to release the old story and let a new one begin. A story in which money is not a source of tension, but a source of empowerment. A story in which money is not tangled with shame, but connected to purpose. A story in which money is not feared, but welcomed. A story in which money flows, not because you force it, but because you no longer resist it. As your breath deepens again, imagine this new relationship forming gently and gradually. A soft peace around the idea of abundance. A subtle lightness around the topic of money. A quiet sense of possibility where fear once lived. You are not repairing your finances tonight. You are repairing the relationship, the inner foundation, the emotional and spiritual space where abundance takes root. And as this new story settles into your consciousness, money becomes what it was always meant to be: a spiritual ally, a supportive partner, a gentle flow that amplifies your purpose rather than threatening your peace. And as the tension around money loosens, unfurling like a tight knot finally given permission to release, you may feel a softer spaciousness opening inside you, a kind of quiet clarity, a sense that something within you has shifted, even if only by a few degrees. That softness, that subtle realignment, is what makes it possible to step into the next truth, one that weaves itself through every spiritual journey, every transformation, every moment of growth. You do not need to see the entire path for the path to be real. This is one of the hardest lessons for the mind, yet one of the most natural truths for the soul. The mind wants certainty. It wants proof. It wants a map, a plan, a guarantee. The mind wants to stand at the beginning and see all the way to the end before it takes a single step. It wants the comfort of predictability, an assurance that everything will work out exactly as imagined. But the soul does not operate in straight lines or visible maps. The soul operates in trust, in intuition, in subtle nudges, in invisible guidance that becomes visible only after you've walked the first few steps. Right now, in this state of deepening stillness, you can feel the gentle truth of that. You can feel how much of your life has already unfolded through paths you didn't plan, decisions you didn't anticipate, opportunities you couldn't have predicted. Some of the most meaningful moments in your life came from detours, delays, or unexpected openings, and yet each one carried you forward. This is why Rabbi David often says that faith is not believing everything will be easy. Faith is trusting that every step will take you where you need to go, even when you cannot yet see the full picture. Take a slow breath. Let it fill you gently, like warm air expanding through a quiet room. Feel how the air moves without effort, how your body opens without force, how your mind softens into a state where trust becomes possible. Trust is not a dramatic leap, it is a relaxing into what already supports you. You don't need to control the outcome. You don't need to predict the future. You don't need to force clarity. You only need to allow the path to reveal itself at its own pace. Imagine walking through a forest at dawn. At first, the light is dim. The way forward is not fully visible. But as you take each step, the sun rises a little more, illuminating the next few feet, then the next few, and then a little farther still. You never needed to see the entire forest. You only needed the light for the next step. Your life works the same way, and tonight, in this tender place between wakefulness and dreams, your soul can finally exhale into that understanding. The need to control is falling away, dissolving like mist in warm sunlight. The pressure to figure everything out is easing. The fear of the unknown is softening into something quieter, something closer to curiosity than dread. You have been held through every moment of uncertainty you have already lived. You have survived storms you thought would break you. You have navigated paths you didn't see until you were already walking them. And even during times when you felt lost, you were never without guidance. There were moments of intuition, sudden clarity, synchronicities, unexpected support, little flashes of divine direction that appeared exactly when you needed them most. Those were not coincidences, they were confirmations. The path does not need to be visible for it to be guided. Feel into that now. Feel how reassuring it is. Feel how it untangles something inside your chest. Your job is not to control the journey. Your job is to stay open to it, to listen, to respond to what resonates, to move when your soul whispers yes, and to pause when it gently says wait. This is not passivity. This is alignment. When you release the need to force outcomes, you create space for the right outcomes. When you stop clinging to control, clarity finds you. When you loosen your grip, life breathes on your behalf. In this relaxed, peaceful state, imagine placing the weight of uncertainty, every unanswered question, every unresolved situation, every fear of the unknown, into a soft, glowing light. Not to get rid of it, but to let it be held by something wiser, steadier, and more spacious than your mind. Feel how your breath deepens at the thought. Feel how your muscles soften. Feel how your heart unclenches, even slightly. You are not meant to carry the entire path. You are only meant to walk the piece that is illuminated today. And with each step, more light will come, more clarity, more guidance, more alignment. You do not need to see the future to walk confidently toward it. You only need to trust the presence that walks with you, quietly, faithfully, guiding your steps long before you know where they are leading. And as the truth of walking an unseen path settles gently into your spirit, softening your grip, easing your breath, inviting you into a deeper surrender, you begin to feel something warm rising from within you. It's subtle at first, like the faint glow of a candle in the distance. But as it approaches, that warmth gathers, expands, and begins to wrap itself around you. This is the moment where guidance becomes blessing, where the journey of understanding becomes a moment of spiritual nourishment, where the path you cannot yet see meets the rest your soul has been craving. A blessing is not a wish. A blessing is not a hope. A blessing is an energetic transmission, a spiritual embrace, a whisper from the divine carried through words, intention, and presence. And tonight, as your body grows heavier and your mind grows lighter, you are open enough to receive it, truly receive it. Not with effort, not with focus, but the way the ocean receives the tide, with ease, with softness, with surrender. Let your breath become slow. Let your chest loosen. Let your shoulders fall. Let every slow inhale prepare the vessel. Let every long exhale open the channel a little more. And now, let this blessing pour into you like warm oil, coating every tight place, every fearful place, every tired place with healing, peace, and renewal. May your sleep tonight be a sanctuary, a sacred chamber where your soul finds rest and your spirit finds strength. May every breath you take draw in calmness and release the weight you no longer need to carry. May your mind soften into clarity, letting go of the stories that burdened you and embracing the truth of who you are beneath them. May the layers of stress unwind gently from your body, like knots loosening in warm water. May your heartbeat find its natural rhythm, steady, trusting, unhurried. May your nervous system settle into a deep stillness that reminds every part of you that you are safe, supported, and watched over. May your dreams open the door to wisdom your waking mind cannot yet access. May insights rise like soft light, illuminating the places within you that long to be understood. May you awaken tomorrow with renewed clarity, as if a quiet hand has rearranged the pieces of your inner world while you slept. May healing flow through you in the hours ahead, not by force, not by effort, but by grace. Healing of the thoughts that once limited you. Healing of the fears that once held you back. Healing of the wounds you learned to carry because no one taught you how to release them. May abundance draw closer to you, not as something to chase, but as something that recognizes your alignment. May opportunities find you with ease. May resources flow toward you naturally. May your relationship with money become warm, peaceful, and supportive. May you begin to see wealth not as something external, but as a reflection of your expanding inner world. May your future be guided gently, step by step, by a wisdom beyond your understanding. May paths open before you with perfect timing. May synchronicities weave themselves into your days as reminders that you are not walking alone. May your integrity continue to be your compass. May your kindness continue to be your protection. May your generosity continue to be your expansion. May every blessing you send out return multiplied, carrying gifts you never expected. May your home be filled with quiet goodness. May your relationships be softened by compassion. May your decisions be guided by clarity rather than fear. And above all, may your heart remain open. Open to love, open to possibility, open to divine connection, open to the life that is slowly, gently unfolding for you. Feel these words settling, not on your ears, but on your soul. Feel them wrapping around you like a blanket of warm light. Feel them entering the spaces that once felt tight, uncertain, or fragile. Feel how your breath deepens in response, as if the body is saying, "Yes, I receive this." Rest now, deeply and without resistance. Rest in the knowledge that you are held. Rest in the knowing that you are guided. Rest in the truth that abundance is already moving toward you. Rest in the assurance that tomorrow will meet you with softness and strength. This blessing is yours. Let it surround you. Let it fill you. Let it become the atmosphere in which you drift peacefully into sleep and awaken renewed, aligned, and ready for the future that is already unfolding in your favor. And as that blessing continues to settle over you, warm, steady, almost tangible, you may begin to feel something shifting within, as though a vast inner landscape is slowly opening its gates. The air inside your chest becomes softer. The space behind your eyes grows quieter. The tension in your hands, your jaw, your shoulders, all of it loosens in a way it rarely does during the rush of daily life. This is not just relaxation. This is preparation. A gentle transition from carrying to releasing, from doing to being, from striving to surrendering. Your soul is preparing for renewal. Not the kind of renewal that comes through effort or discipline or conscious decision-making, but the kind that happens in the quiet hours, beneath the surface of sleep, when the body rests and the soul ascends. Renewal that is spiritual rather than mental. Renewal that rewrites patterns, heals weariness, restores energy, and realigns your inner world with the divine currents that guide you. But before renewal can take place, something essential must happen. The burdens you've been carrying, some consciously, many unconsciously, need to be laid down. Tonight, you do not have to hold everything together. You do not have to solve anything. You do not have to strategize or plan or brace yourself. You do not have to worry about tomorrow or replay the past. Tonight, you are invited to surrender. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender is giving over. It is allowing the weight to be lifted from your hands and placed into hands far more capable than your own. Feel how your breath responds to that idea. How each inhale becomes less guarded. How each exhale becomes longer, deeper, more releasing. Imagine your burdens, big or small, recent or old, gathering like pebbles in your hands. Worries about money, questions about purpose, tensions in relationships, concerns for your future, heavy memories from your past, expectations you've placed upon yourself, expectations others have placed upon you. Everything you've been holding, whether tightly or quietly. See them in your hands. Feel their weight. Acknowledge them gently, without judgment. And now imagine a warm, pulsing light forming above your hands, a soft, golden glow that radiates calm. This is the presence of the Creator, not distant, not demanding, not judging, present, close, loving, steady, ready. Without effort, without ceremony, without explanation, imagine offering the pebbles into that light. Watch the burden leave your hands. Watch the weight dissolve. Watch the light absorb what was once heavy, transforming it into something softer, lighter, easier to carry, or no longer necessary at all. Feel the relief in your body as the burden is given over. Feel your shoulders lower. Feel your stomach ease. Feel the muscles of your face soften. Feel your breath deepen in that quiet, instinctive way the body responds to truth. You were never meant to carry everything alone. You are not built to hold constant strain. Your soul is not designed to live in perpetual vigilance. It needs renewal. It needs spaciousness. It needs rest. And tonight, as you release what you once held, your soul begins to make room for that renewal. Renewal requires emptiness, like a vessel that must be unfilled before it can receive fresh water. When you surrender your burdens, even briefly, you create space for divine energy to flow in, reorganizing what has been chaotic, restoring what has been depleted, and refreshing what has long been tired. As your body grows heavier against the bed, imagine your soul rising, not upward, not into distance, but into depth, deeper into itself, deeper into wisdom, deeper into peace. This rising is not motion, it is expansion, like a flower opening at night, petals unfurling in the dark. Your consciousness begins to stretch, becoming more spacious. The noise fades, the mind quiets. The heart becomes softer, more open, more receptive. This is the state in which spiritual renewal happens most powerfully, not in struggle, not in discipline, but in surrender. And in this surrender, feel the gentle presence surrounding you, as if an unseen arm is placed around your shoulders, steadying you, comforting you, holding you. There is a sense of being watched over, cared for, protected in a way that requires nothing from you except your willingness to rest. You are safe enough to release. You are supported enough to let go. You are loved enough to rest deeply. You are guided enough to surrender the unanswered questions. Let your breath slow, like waves settling after a long tide. Let your mind drift, like a leaf carried on still water. Let your body melt into the softness beneath you, each muscle unwinding, each thought loosening its grip. Your soul is preparing. Your spirit is being readied. The inner world is opening itself to renewal, calm, deep, sacred renewal that will continue long after you drift into sleep. This is your moment to rest in the arms of something greater, gentler, wiser than anything you could create through force. This is your moment to surrender everything that was heavy, so that renewal can begin its quiet work within you. And as your soul settles into that open, surrendered space, light where it once felt heavy, spacious where it once felt crowded, calm where it once felt tense. You begin to sense a deeper quiet rising around you. It is not the quiet of emptiness, but the quiet of fullness. A sacred stillness, the kind that appears only when the inner world has softened enough to truly receive. In this stillness, wisdom becomes gentle. It doesn't instruct, it doesn't warn, it doesn't correct. It simply whispers. A whisper is all you need when your soul is this open. Loudness would only disturb the peace you've created. Harshness would only close the channels you've just softened. And so what rises now comes through as a closing murmur, a final breath of reassurance, a softness that moves through you like warm wind through a quiet room. You are supported. Let those words fall slowly into the space of your chest. Supported in ways you can feel, and supported in ways you cannot. Supported by people you know and people you have not yet met. Supported by the structure of life itself, the invisible network of synchronicities, timing, intuition, spiritual guidance, and subtle nudges that have carried you this far. Even when you felt alone, you were being held in unseen ways. Even when you felt lost, the path beneath your feet was forming. Even when you didn't feel strong, something larger was holding the weight for you. Feel that support now, like a soft hand between your shoulder blades, steady and calm. You are guided, not sometimes, always. Guided through thoughts that arrive at just the right time. Guided through moments of clarity that seem to appear from nowhere. Guided through intuition, through inner knowing, through sudden peace in the middle of confusion. Guided through doors that open effortlessly, and guided just as lovingly through the doors that close. Every redirection has meaning. Every delay has purpose. Every unanswered question holds a timing that will eventually reveal itself. You have never been without guidance. The guidance simply becomes louder when the mind becomes quieter, just like it is right now. And you are ready to hear the next piece of wisdom that comes in silence, not sound, in feeling, not words, in rest, not effort. And most softly, most quietly, most importantly, abundance is already flowing toward you, not metaphorically, not symbolically, truly, tangibly, energetically. Abundance is not something you chase. Abundance is something you align with. And alignment is exactly what you've been creating through every breath of this night, through every release, every moment of surrender, every softening of the heart, every loosening of the old stories you carried. There is more coming to you than you realize, more support, more clarity, more provision, more opportunities that align with your soul rather than drain your spirit, more ease, more flow, more of the life you've quietly hoped for but were afraid to fully claim. Feel how your heart responds to that truth, a slow expansion, a soft warming, a quiet readiness. You are no longer blocking the flow. You are no longer clinging to fear. You are no longer holding your breath against possibility. You are open now, receptive now, aligned now. And in this final moment of waking quiet before sleep takes you deeper, allow these last whispers to settle into your spirit. You are supported. You are guided. Abundance is already on its way to you. You do not need to reach for it. You do not need to prove yourself worthy of it. You do not need to stay awake to receive it. Your only task now is to rest. Let your breath soften until it becomes almost effortless. Let your body grow heavy in the most comforting way. Let your mind melt into silence. Let your soul rise into the quiet places where renewal continues its gentle work. Sleep now. Sleep with the knowledge that the universe is arranging what you cannot see. Sleep with the assurance that you are carried, held, guided. Sleep with the quiet confidence that abundance is not ahead of you. It is already flowing toward you, already forming, already answering the deepest needs of your heart. Sleep now and receive.